This is a miracle. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 401 Jade-Body Exquisite Corpse. Jade-Bodied Exquisite Corpse. Rank, Heroic Miracle Source, Eternally Buried Imperial Mausoleum, Lower Tier Miracle Structure. This is due to the special characteristics of the exquisite corpse, Fusang said. The exquisite corpse isn't just a zombie, but an immortal. The immortals are a collective term for the corpse bride's miracle-born subjects. They are powerful beings who have gained eternal life and immortality, transcending ordinary mortals. Honestly, the immortals aren't much different from fairies or monsters. After all, trees and stones can become spirits, so the resurrection of a corpse isn't a big deal. The exquisite corpse is an immortal created by a special miracle power, Yugi added. They're no different from humans, and can even mate with them and produce offspring. Therefore, the immortals are more like a completely new species, not zombies like the golden-haired hound. Are there many types of corpse-like miracle people? Yes, Fusang led the two through the underground palace, their destination being the body chosen by the corpse bride. Corpse ghosts, corpse demons, corpse devils, corpse princesses, and corpse immortals. My master has classified them into different categories. Which one do you want to know about? Which one do they belong to? Bai Luo pointed behind him at the 12 golden-haired hyenas that served as a vehicle for the chariot. Corpse demons, they are zombie kings, not corpse demons, Fusang explained. Corpse demons are non-human derivatives of corpses, such as insects, fish, birds, and so on. Which one do you belong to? We sisters are corpse immortals, Fusang said. We are not the dead, but lords of other dimensions. I come from the dimension of reflection, I come from the dimension of plenty and absence. The sisters were dimensional beings representing sunlight and moonlight. Subjugated by the corpse bride, they were transformed into miracle people, and even powerful kings at the peak of their powers. Corpse immortals are immortals who no longer rely on physical bodies. In this respect, they are somewhat similar to the ghosts of Fengdu. However, the sisters' power isn't from the dimension of the dead. They embody a surging life force, making them less ghostly beings and more like immortals or celestial maidens. Corpse-reincarnated immortals abandon their physical bodies and assume the form of physical objects, achieving immortality. Fusang's form is sunlight, and Yuga's is moonlight. So, if one must describe what kind of corpse-like miracle soldiers they are, it's more like dead sunlight and dead moonlight, resurrected. So, corpse immortals don't refer to the resurrection of living things, but to various laws. Even dead laws can be cultivated into immortality. This is the corpse bride's miraculous construction, the eternally resting imperial tomb. Besides this, my lord also has many spiritual miracle subjects. Of course, the underground palace isn't just filled with corpses, it also contains powerful guardian beasts and the souls of the dead who rest there. Listening to the sisters' explanations, Bai Luo thought to himself, it does resemble Fia's heroic spirit. Speaking of which, what is the content of this miracle war? Bai Luo had expected the corpse bride to clash with Fengdu, but that turned out not to be the case. Neither side had any intention of launching a large-scale war. The process is simple, Fusang said. My lord established this underground palace, the most mysterious place in this plane. His Highness Fengdu will send the local forces he supports to break into the palace and steal its most precious treasures, the Jingying Jade Disc and the Candle Chamber Orb. Bai Luo asked, what are these two? These are treasures born from this plane absorbing my lord's miraculous power. Simply put, they're something a bit like ginseng fruit, capable of enhancing the aptitude of a subject, though not to the exaggerated level of legendary, but rather king level. In other words, these two treasures can create two king-level combatants. Even before a master of the three awakenings, they would be treasures worthy of the place. They've been taken, Bai Luo asked, will they be returned? Of course not, Fusang explained, they will be kept as trophies by the mortals who took them. It's a reward, even if they were treasures, it would be useless if the corpse bride refused, as her miraculous power would not recognize them. But since the corpse bride was willing to give them to mortals as trophies, it also meant that they could use them. You're so generous, Bai Luo marveled at the corpse bride's wealth, even giving away king-level treasures to ordinary people in the lower planes. Bai Luo would never have been willing to do that. For us, it's equivalent to a king-level heirloom, or the king bloodline of the sacred beast forest. Maya conversed with Bai Luo, but from the looks of it, they don't seem to care at all. Bai Luo wanted to ask Fusang how many king-level or even legendary-level treasures the corpse bride had, but he decided against it, as he didn't want to be insulted by the rich woman. Boom boom, Bai Luo heard a vibration, a sound similar to something exploding. What's this? The exquisite corpse's carrier capacity was limited, but his main body immediately sensed it and discovered that a group of humans dressed in Republican-era clothing were blasting the mountain to clear a path. Mortals, in this battle, neither Miracle Lord chose to send his direct descendants to fight. As a result, the combat forces that either side could deploy could not even exceed the transcendent level. There are 24 of them, equipped with firearms, very crude firearms. A few of them carry a mysterious presence, Bai Luo assessed, while the other party was clearly unaware of their presence. It's the miraculous power of Feng Du. 1 is transcendental, 3 are extraordinary, and the rest are ordinary, trained individuals. Your Highness, Lord Atón. Fusang raised her hand, and a picture appeared before Bai Luo and Maya. They are the forces His Highness has dispatched this time. In this world, they're called tomb robbers, Majinzaya Aoi, or the Old Nine Gates. What's that? Fusang didn't understand Bai Luo's meaning. She was confused, unsure how to respond. Majinzaya Aoi, is that some kind of official title? And what are the Old Nine Gates? Just pretend I didn't say anything. Bai Luo still enjoyed tomb raiding stories. But now, he wasn't a participant, but a spectator. His job was to monitor whether these people were using any powers beyond the prescribed limits. The other side only has 1 transcendent and 3 extraordinary. What about you guys? 100 times, Bai Luo raised an eyebrow. Is that even possible? Speaking of which, Bai Luo had only just learned the rules, and the corpse bride must have discussed this matter with Feng Du in advance. Since both sides were okay with it, Bai Luo couldn't say anything. Who proposed this, my lord? Didn't Feng Du object? He accepted. Accepting even such an offer, Bai Luo actually took some interest in the tomb robbers. It seems Feng Du has a lot of confidence in them. Chapter 402 Tomb Robbery. Bang! Outside the ancient tomb, a resounding explosion kicked up a cloud of dust. A group of figures dressed in Republican-era attire were hiding in cover. They coughed softly and waved their hands to clear the air. It was midday, and although the scorching sun was shielded by the dense forest, the stifling heat of the damp air was even more oppressive than the blazing sun itself. We've seen the tomb entrance. With a startled cry, a young man in military uniform hurried over, turning back. Old black dog, check here to see if you've found the wrong place. Okay. A bearded man in a gray coat unwrapped a black cloth from a bundle and unfolded it, revealing a blood-red diagram from the I Ching. Tai Chi, 2 yin and yang, 8 trigrams. And on this diagram, a tiny mouse crawled forward. The man known as Old Black Dog stared intently at the blood-red Park Sang-bu, his eyes following the mouse's movements, rapidly memorizing what he saw and, with incredible mental calculation, arranging the meanings. Tun 3, Can 29, Jian 39, Ze 47. The Old Black Dog's face suddenly changed. He looked at the man in military uniform with horror and trembling voice. 1 water is already very ominous, and now 4 waters are accompanying it. It's rare in the world. What does the hexagram say? The man in military uniform clearly trusted the Old Black Dog and wanted to hear his divination results. Water is like waves trapped in bumpy terrain. A wave that hasn't yet subsided causes thunder in the mountains. Dry soil by the lake dries up the lake. Without turbulent water, avoid climbing mountains. Very ominous. The Old Black Dog was about to stand up when he heard a loud pop. The crawling rat exploded, causing the Old Black Dog to gasp. This is the most ominous place I've ever seen. It must be here, the white-haired woman in Taoist robes said. This place is extremely yang. No way would anyone bury a tomb here, and yet it's so ominous. Everything has its opposite when it reaches its extreme. Where extreme yang is above ground, extreme yin is below. We've found the place. This must be the source of the chaos. The woman in Taoist robes was the Grand Master of this Hangai sect, known as Yang Xiao. She was also the peak-level transcendent powerhouse Bai Luo had sensed. A powerful cultivator from a lower plane, she had managed to live for over 100 years thanks to her astonishing talent. Since Senior Yang Xiao says so, then this must be it. The burly man had a rugged appearance and a voice like a bell, but the bulging muscles beneath his clothes spoke of his extraordinary prowess. Unlike Yang Xiao, the man was Li Zhen, a martial arts master. Even the supposedly invulnerable zombies would be no match for his casual punches. What are we waiting for? Li Zhen shouted. Go down and tear this place apart. Then turn that old skeleton's coffin inside out. If it turns to ash, we'll give him a spit. Be careful, Brother Li. Among the group, there was only one transcendent, but 3 extraordinary, one of whom was Li Zhen. The remaining 2 were Taoist priest Lin from Mount Maoshan, and the other, Zhang Xianqi, a contemporary of Mount Longhu. It's not that simple down there, Taoist priest Lin said. Yesterday, I communicated with the underworld, and the underworld lord was inspired to pass down a map of the underground palace, which underworld lord? Yuxiao's power allowed her to sense things beyond the reach of ordinary humans, such as the existence of a hazy underworld beyond this world. But as young Xiao knew, the spirits of the underworld were not easy to deal with, they were no better than the evil spirits. Yuxiao was eager to know whether the underworld lord that Taoist priest Lin mentioned was an evil ghost or something else entirely. Let me see the map. Yuxiao took the map from Taoist priest Lin. She was also knowledgeable in feng shui, and with just a quick glance, she knew the map was real. It's genuine, and this underground palace is truly incredibly complex. Yuxiao was amazed. Who on earth could have built such a palace in such a place? Could there really have been gods and demons in ancient times? Over 100 years ago, the first zombie emerged from nowhere. No one knew its origins, nor the nature of these strange creatures. This world had already been invaded by dimensional creatures in ancient times, leaving behind a legacy that allowed exceptionally gifted mortals to master the mystical power of that dimension. Yuxiao and Li Zhen, present, possessed both Taoist and martial arts powers. It's very likely an ancient demon, said Taoist priest Lin. Our Maoshan has had the secret art of repelling corpses since ancient times, but as you know, it's just a trick. By stimulating acupuncture points, the magical power allows the creatures to walk again. The Maoshan of this world doesn't have the magic to create zombies. So-called zombies are likely creatures nurtured by the yin energy of tombs and underground palaces. The corpse bride wasn't the creator of zombies, for the underground palace miracle had existed before her, only to fall. However, the zombies bred by the corpse bride and those nurtured by the same dimensional force through resentment are 2 completely different species, with a vast difference. Simply put, the latter are weak and barely change, while the former evolve at an incredibly rapid rate. Are these the people you sent? Just a few dozen people. Ying Muliang and Mu Yunji didn't need to make any judgments, a simple perception gave them a clear understanding. Compared to Ying Muliang's composure, Mu Yunji had had fewer interactions with Feng Du and wasn't as familiar with him. You're a bit weak, Mu Yunji thought Feng Du was being overconfident. The opponent is 100 times more prepared than you are. Are you giving up on yourself, Your Excellency, the female sword emperor? Everything has 2 sides. Feng Du was no longer dressed as Bai Wuchang. He was now clad in a dark imperial robe and a crown, remarkably resembling the ruler of the underworld. A miracle battle, with his strength, a clash of 2 heroes could shatter it. This was why Feng Du and the corpse bride didn't send their own people, but instead chose local forces, the natives of this plane. They were too weak to withstand their attack. But if we rely solely on local forces, Feng Du said, they've been developing for hundreds of years, and I've only entered in the past few decades. I'm far from a match for them, so Feng Du was smart not to choose a so-called war. Otherwise, if the corpse bride had released the millions of zombies she had stored in this world, Feng Du would have thought that there was no need for a fight and it would be better to simply surrender. Is that the map? Ying Muian saw the key at a glance. The underground palace Feng Du had given to Lin Daocheng was the Feng Du's foundation. Big sister, you are indeed the big sister. Feng Du saluted Ying Muian and smiled. Your Majesties, please use the ghostly immortal spirits I have prepared for you to enjoy this little adventure. Chapter 403, Evil Corpse. Everyone, be careful, this is the land of the 4 evils. None of us knows what lies beneath. Old Black Dog was a descendant of the ancient Yi school. It was rumored that this divination method was originated by Fuxi. Brother Li Zhen, I want you to lead. Don't worry, Li Zhen had practiced internal martial arts for decades and possessed exceptional talent. His martial arts had returned to their purest form, making him immune to all poisons. He was the only one present who had been bitten by a zombie and remained unscathed. Even the corpse poison couldn't harm him. It was perfect for someone like him to lead the charge. Leave the scouting work to sisters. 2 women dressed in Miao ethnicity pulled 2 clay pots from a package. When they opened the pots, a swarm of tiny, pitch-black insects crawled out. Map, old black dog, knowing the sisters' abilities, quickly handed them the map of the underground palace he had received from Taoist priest Lin. While he could divine, the sisters' goo insects could directly enter and explore, making them, in some ways, more suitable to be pioneers in this underground palace than he was. How is it? What a complex underground palace. I've never seen anything this complex. Sister Li Lu was in telepathy with the insects. This was a very special dimensional power that allowed extremely subtle perceptions to be transmitted to her mind through something similar to ultrasound. The left is a dead end, sister. One person wasn't strong enough, so her younger sister Li Jia joined her in the exploration. Here, suddenly, Li Lu frowned. What a terrifying evil spirit. There's an earthly devil corpse here. We must not go this way later. They hadn't descended into the tomb, but they had already thoroughly explored the first level of the underground palace. Earthly devil corpse, isn't that something legendary? Zombies are divided into levels. Let's not talk about the lower level ones. The higher level zombies are divided into armored zombies and flying zombies. Armored zombies maximize their physical strength, while flying zombies awaken various mysterious powers, making them extremely strange. Both armored zombies and flying zombies have 4 levels: gold, silver, bronze, and iron, with the gold armor being the highest and iron armor the lowest. Above these 4 levels lies the legendary Zombie King. Honestly, no one present had ever seen a true Zombie King, and the earthly devil corpse Li Lu mentioned was precisely one type of Zombie King. There were 36 celestial beings and 72 earthly devil corpses, a total of 108 Zombie Kings, each possessing unmatched power. Perhaps Yang Xiao could battle them, but it required a one-on-one fight. An earthly devil corpse appeared on the first floor. Yang Xiao's eyes were filled with surprise. She had assumed that a being of the Zombie King's caliber would be at the very bottom, perhaps even the final boss. But the first floor? That was a bit too much? Is it just a bluff, or does this underground palace truly exceed our imaginations? Yang Xiao couldn't tell. She tried to speculate that the palace's owner had placed the ultimate boss on the first floor, with each subsequent floor becoming less powerful, but that seemed unlikely. It seems our earlier plan to attack Huanglong directly was unrealistic. This earthly devil corpse has already reached the peak of extraordinary combat power, right? Bai Luo assessed the strength of the earthly devil corpse and discovered that it was not a single individual, but rather a type of soldier. Earth Yin Evil Star Corpse, also known as the Earth Yin Corpse King. Of course, the term Corpse King applies to the material plane. According to the Miracle Worldview's power classification, the hero level is equivalent to the strongest combat power in a plane, equivalent to a demigod. Those below the hero level are naturally the kings of each era, rarely seen. This Earth Evil Corpse would be a mere minion, easily annihilated against king-level powerhouses like Fusang and Yuge, but on the prime material plane, it's practically invincible. And my lord has prepared a total of 12 of these evil corpses. In other words, it's impossible for anyone to force their way through. Death is inevitable. Indeed, elsewhere, Feng Du faced the same question, asked by the female Sword Emperor. That's why I gave them the map of the underground palace. Does the king of the East Sea know about it? Of course not. Feng Du gave a sly smile, which made the two empresses exchange glances. Neither of them were the type to joke, and they actually began to ponder and discuss. Well, Feng Du was a bit uneasy. This, isn't it, illegal? Let's discuss it. Although there were 3 miracle masters supervising this time, in reality, both Ying Muliang and Mu Yunji prioritized Bai Luo. But that was only in terms of attitude. In terms of ability, Bai Luo had no say. Just like now, Feng Du had clearly made advanced preparations. Did this constitute a violation of the miracle war provisions of the Sacred Covenant? Prepared in advance, Mu Yunji? That's not a violation, is it? Probably not. Ying Mulian, Little Feng Du and the King of the East Sea are sworn enemies. It's reasonable for them to investigate each other's abilities beforehand, but, Mu Yunji glanced at Feng Du. Did this kid plot against her? He had clearly made preparations, yet he still lured the corpse bride into the trap, letting her initiate the miracle war. Feng Du, you have to say, is despicable. Little Feng Du, she's a girl after all. Ying Mulian held his forehead. Can't you just give her some ground? In Ying Mulian's eyes, Feng Du was more like a child than a younger brother. If he and the corpse bride said they weren't having an affair, Ying Mulian wouldn't believe it. Is this what Xiao Luo calls a straight man? Ying Mulian grumbled to himself, adding to Feng Du, you don't have any deep hatred against her. Otherwise, it's better not to do such things. How is that possible? Feng Du quickly said, I'd have to die to lose to her, since you've already thought it through. Ying Mulian returned the map. This isn't a violation. Although you prepared ahead of time, preparation itself is a form of strength. We acknowledge the legitimacy of your actions. Ying Mulian and Mu Yunji acknowledged it, and whether Bai Luo admitted it or not was irrelevant. Bai Luo didn't even know the rules. How could he judge a basket? Of course, he still had to say it. Did the other side prepare in advance? Bai Luo received the message from the two women and knew the whole story. He glanced at Fusang and Yuge, but said nothing. As the supervisor, Bai Luo could see the actions of both sides of the game, like a god's perspective in League of Legends. However, Bai Luo could not reveal any information. A true gentleman observes the game without saying a word. Bai Luo had no grudges against Feng Du, nor did he have any special affection for the corpse bride, so Bai Luo did not intend to take sides. Since the two empresses felt that preparing the underground palace map in advance was not against the rules, Bai Luo naturally did not say anything. It seems that this miraculous battle was a deliberate plan. Chapter 404 Feng Du, Big Brother, are you still in need of a younger brother? Ying Mulian and Mu Yunji were currently seated in a waterside pavilion, where graceful white-clad ghost maidens danced. Even though both empresses were women, dance itself was an art, so they found it quite amusing. As for Feng Du, the dignified ruler of the underworld, the great emperor of the underworld, who controlled the cycle of reincarnation, he was actually personally boiling water and making tea for the two empresses. I can do it myself. Mu Yunji was more powerful than Feng Du, and held a higher seniority than him, but as both were lords of miracles, there was no reason for him to do so. Big sister, you can't refuse. Mu Yunji was reluctant, that was her business, but Ying Mulian and Feng Du were insistent. Besides, it's one of my few hobbies. Making tea for myself is too boring. Before becoming a lord of miracles, Feng Du was a tea master living on the land of Jiazhao, a subject of Ying Mulian. His experiences were very similar to Zhu Teichu's. Both met Ying Mulian, whose talents were discovered by him, and then served as tea masters under the Eastern Empress for hundreds of years. Truthfully, Feng Du and Zhu Teichu's acceptance of Ying Mulian's miraculous powers undoubtedly demonstrates their unwavering loyalty to her. Even if they later received the miracle, if Ying Mulian, as a miraculous creature, hadn't been unable to replace it, they would have likely sacrificed it. Because of this relationship, Feng Du subconsciously believed he was merely a vassal king, while Ying Mulian was the emperor. This incident also caused Zhu Teichu to suffer greatly. I'm not forbidding you from making tea. Ying Mulian gazed at Feng Du's artistic tea art and sighed. When was the last time I drank your tea? Over 50 years, I suppose. Feng Du said calmly, Big sister, if you like, I'll make tea specially for you once I complete my contracted mission. Feng Du's miracle wasn't a miraculous creature, and his own flawed personality made him unfit to be a regional overlord. If possible, Feng Du would have preferred to continue following a great figure like Ying Mulian. Are you serious? Ying Mulian thought this was good news. You, the Lord of Miracles, what's the difference? Feng Du rested her chin on her hand and said helplessly, if I hadn't found the miracle and was still making tea for you, big sister, I'd definitely be much happier than I am now. Feng Du was an artist, proficient in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, and possessed extraordinary accomplishments in tea ceremony, flower arrangement, dance, and music. Therefore, allowing such a person to become king was truly unbearable. Each Lord of Miracles is noble, but that doesn't mean everyone is willing to declare, my fate is in my own hands, regardless of others. Feng Du is pretty indifferent. Of course, even if one is following, one must choose a qualified boss. Ying Mulian, for example, is fully qualified, someone he can trust and feel at ease with. As for Bai Luo, Feng Du feels that if Bai Luo can truly find a way to contract him, he will surely become his big brother. After all, it's not about winning loyalty just because you have a contract, you have to convince them first before you can conclude a contract with them. I really don't understand you. Mu Yunji said this, and she didn't doubt the truth in Feng Du's words. A contract between the Lord of Miracles and their ministers. Lords of Miracles are diverse, and there are all kinds of people. Just like herself, a person without desires. Well, without desires, so the miracle subjects under her command must also be without desires. In some ways, Mu Yunji was quite overbearing, reminiscent of a feudal patriarch or a tiger-like ant. Mu Yunji knew something about the king-minister contract. However, it was still a legendary concept. Only one person in the world had ever managed to transform a miracle lord into a miracle creature, his uncle, Saros. King Qin and his uncle were the only known examples. However, it was this example that gave Feng Du, Shi Ziyu, Mu Yunji, and the others hope. None of them harbored ambitions for world domination. If Bai Luo could truly fulfill the king-minister contract and transform them into miracle creatures, why not? The three of them certainly had little affection for Bai Luo. They were just acquaintances, through the miracle contract. However, they were all too familiar with their uncle and Ying Mulian. Feng Du was hell-bent on making Ying Mulian king, Shi Ziyu had been saved by their uncle, and Mu Yunji had received so much care from his uncle that it was difficult to repay the debt. Ying Mulian and old uncle were both Bai Luo's family, part of the same group. The best way to join Bai Luo's group, then, was to become Bai Luo's miracle. That way, Bai Luo could rest assured, and they wouldn't have to face the awkward situation of being enemies with Ying Mulian and old uncle. Honestly, letting Feng Du defeat Mulian and letting Shi Ziyu deal with old uncle would be even more painful than killing them. You don't seem to care about this miracle battle at all, Ying Mulian asked. Are you just trying to get close to us, big sister? You have a keen eye. Don't flatter me, you little brat. Ying Mulian thought for a moment and asked, what about the king of the East Sea? Does she have the same idea? No. Feng Du shook his head. She probably simply wants to form an alliance with Lord Atón. Chainer is different from me. After all, she has her own agenda. The corpse bride wanted to climb the ladder. She wouldn't settle for mediocrity. Forcing her to submit to Bai Luo for no reason was simply impossible. Feng Du and the other three were able to directly accept the royal minister quest because his sister and uncle had paved the way for Bai Luo and helped him complete his conquest. Even if Bai Luo possessed the Book of Yajin, it would have been impossible for anyone else to obtain the royal minister quest without decades, even centuries, of patient effort. To contract a solitary miracle master, one must fill their empty hearts. However, without knowing the method, one can only grope for it. This is incredibly time-consuming. The Book of Yajin can be displayed directly, but only if the other party's favorability is extremely high. There's no need for direct contact with Bai Luo. The miracles under Bai Luo's command are no different from him. Seeing a miracle is like seeing Bai Luo, so they can do the same. That's up to you. Ying Mulian gave Feng Du an encouraging look. I'll have Xiao Luo figure out how to bring you over. And once you're here, King of the East Sea, you'll have to work hard. Feng Du and the King of the East Sea were childhood sweethearts, with a deeply complex relationship between them. But one thing Ying Mulian was certain of, once Bai Luo transformed Feng Du into a miraculous creature, it would activate the East Sea King's mission as a minister. While conquering the miracle world sometimes required victory and destruction through force, this wasn't the only path. Just like now, through conquering strategies one by one, Bai Luo could also use righteousness to gain greater power. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 405, This is outrageous. What's going on? The corpse bride sensed the changes in the Imperial Mausoleum. Why didn't the tomb robbers follow the route I gave them? Did they avoid the earthly devil corpses? The earthly devil corpses were nothing to the corpse bride, mere cannon fodder to be annihilated in a snap of a finger. But there weren't that many earthly devil corpses in the entire underground palace. She'd only brought a dozen or so with her. The earthly devil corpses she'd placed before the door were a deliberate show of force, meant to inflict the deaths of those who entered. What's going on now? The corpse bride couldn't accept this outcome. I left them a way out because I didn't want the game to end so quickly, but why did they seem to know there was a secret passage? I don't know. Standing before the corpse bride was a massive monster with a face as ferocious as a demon, a heavenly gang corpse king. Don't know. The corpse bride stood up and walked directly before the heavenly gang corpse king. Her terrifying presence nearly overwhelmed him. Since the Lord of Miracles cannot descend, the corpse bride is using the corpse of an ancient empress interred here. Though revived, her power isn't even at the extraordinary level. Her only advantage lies in her incredibly noble body, practically indistinguishable from that of an ordinary human. This is why the corpse bride chose to manipulate it as her mortal form in this world. Otherwise, possessing the zombie king would be so unsightly that she might as well surrender. Please, Lord, calm your anger, the Xiangang corpse king knelt. He could raise his hand to destroy the corpse bride's body, but how could he dare attack his master? He was a member of the corpse bride's miracle clan, not a lowly ant of this world. When the corpse bride invaded this world, she had sent him, a powerful East Sea citizen with heroic-level combat power. However, due to the constraints of the plane's laws, the Xiangang corpse king could only wield quasi-heroic powers at best. Any higher would likely cause permanent damage to the plane. Calm down, the corpse bride raged. That bastard from Fengdu actually dared to plot against me. He tricked me into launching the miracle war, and I thought I'd tricked him. What a clown. This is too much. No, this is cheating. He's definitely cheating, the corpse bride thought, and hurriedly contacted Bai Luo, but Bai Luo had already received a verdict from the two empresses. Sorry, King of the East Sea, they think there's nothing wrong with this. What, the corpse bride, this? That doesn't count. He's obviously tampering. I'm not experienced enough to judge whether Fengdu's advanced preparations were feasible, Bai Luo said. But the two empresses agree that he's not cheating. This, the corpse bride knew Bai Luo's inexperience, and she didn't expect him to help her with any backdoors. Bai Luo's true role was to maintain the safety of the miracle war. For example, if the Xiangang corpse king was killed, Bai Luo would undoubtedly use his miraculous power to preserve his soul and consciousness, allowing him to be resurrected in the miracle world. Likewise, the Sword Queen, the Eastern Empress, the corpse bride, and even Fengdu would protect him. The infinite power of 5 miracle lords, if it could go wrong protecting just one person, would only prove that all 5 of them were useless, or worse. Alright, I accept it. The corpse bride's original form was still in the miracle world. Here, she was just a Lingzi corpse. She clenched her fists, her nails digging into her flesh, her fury evident. Fengdu, you're so good. You didn't let me get away with it, but you're actually plotting against me. I'm not done with you. With Fengdu's intelligence and his advanced preparation, the corpse bride knew she had no chance of winning. I can't win, but I won't let you off, the corpse bride commanded the Xiangang corpse king. I don't care what method you use, kill all those thieves. Kill them all. Because of Fengdu's incident, the corpse bride was like a furious young lady. She was truly furious. Just kill them all, is that all? Don't make me say it again. Are you an idiot too? The corpse bride approached the Xiangang corpse king. One was a young and beautiful woman, the other a zombie more terrifying than a demon, yet it wasn't the former who was trembling in fear. Yes. I understand, please rest assured, the Xiangang corpse king quickly stood up and respectfully withdrew. I will not let any of the thieves who came in leave alive. Oh, that was really dangerous just now. The group journeyed through the underground palace, having memorized the route by heart. They knew exactly where the traps were and where they couldn't go. Our target is the main tomb chamber, Old Black Dog explained as they walked. The entire Imperial Mausoleum is divided into 18 areas, and 17 of them are deliberately designed to deceive people. To be honest, I've never seen this kind of construction style before. Old Black Dog was also a Feng Shui master, his ancestors having been geomancers for generations, but they hadn't done much research on this type of Imperial Mausoleum. If it weren't for the map obtained by Taoist priest Lin, even Old Black Dog might have been defeated. The one who gave me the map wasn't immortal, Taoist priest Lin said. Our Maotian ancestor obtained it from the Lord of the Mansion. Speaking of that, Yuxiao asked. I've also been a Taoist for many years, but I've never heard of a Lord of the Mansion. Isn't the underworld ruled by the Yama emperors? Where does the Lord of the Mansion come from? I'm not entirely sure about this, Taoist priest Lin had wondered before arriving, but since the ancestors hadn't said much, he couldn't doubt it. Mortals like us shouldn't ask too much about matters of ghosts and gods. Yuxiao and the others didn't know. The ghosts and gods they referred to weren't really gods, but rather more powerful otherworldly beings. True, the underworld is a dimension, the afterlife, the home of souls. But there's more than one underworld. In Miracle World, there are countless underworld dimensions, each governed by its own Lord of the Underworld, Lord of the Dimension, who oversees the cycle of life and death in that region. In the Miracle World, there are not many kings who control the power of reincarnation. Like Fengdu, there are no more than 10 compared to the countless underworld dimensions. The lords of reincarnation in the Miracle World are true gods. This world originally belonged to a certain underworld dimension, but Fengdu intervened, conquered it, and completely controlled it. Therefore, the souls of Master Lin's ancestors naturally belonged to Fengdu as well. With an order from above, how could the minions dare to disobey? However, such a secret was certainly not something that those present had the status and perspective to know. Even young Xiao, who had learned about other dimensions, had no idea that there were so many of them, and that even the underworld that controlled reincarnation was a dimension. Chapter 406 Half Step to the Sixth Realm. Something's wrong. Suddenly, young Xiao, lost in thought, sensed a powerful malevolent aura. Something's coming, Li Zhen. Bang! With that, Li Zhen charged forward. However, there was a clang of metal, and Li Zhen felt a sharp pain as if his arms were broken. He gritted his teeth, roared, and summoned all his strength to block the attack. Roar! As soon as it landed, the terrifying monster in the shadows unleashed a terrifying roar. It was definitely not a human voice, and within the underground palace, only one entity possessed such power. Zombie. Yuxiao was a cultivator, but her martial arts were no less powerful than Li Zhen's. What level of zombie is this? Earthly evil, at least. The Xiangang Corpse King sharpened his fangs and glared at Li Zhen in dissatisfaction. This very creature had actually blocked his attack. Damn the plain will. In the lower planes of the miracle world, people are constantly subjected to various forms of oppression. The Xiangang Corpse King dared not use his first heroic awakening. His current combat power was comparable to that of a peak transcendent. He had to deal with these people, and the other earthly demon corpses had already awakened. No longer confined to their original locations, they rushed out en masse, ready to surround the tomb robbers and strangle them. Not an earthly demon corpse, Li Zhen had fought earthly demon corpses before, and despite a near-death experience, he was certain they were no earthly demon corpses. Too tough. Earthly demon corpses aren't that tough. The Xiangang Corpse King's damage output was comparable to that of an earthly demon corpse, but being a heroic was a hero's level, their physical strength was far superior. Let me do it. Yuxiao was the strongest, and in the miracle world, she was a quasi-hero. If nothing unexpected happened, she would be the strongest this plane could ever produce. A single plane couldn't possibly produce a heroic-level powerhouse. Quasi-hero was the limit. Xingxiao, drawing the immortal sword on her back, Yuxiao poured a surge of spiritual energy into it. In an instant, the Xingxiao sword transcended the constraints of matter, darting through the tomb corridors like a streak of light. Its speed was too swift to be seen by the naked eye, and its destructive power was unimaginable to even someone like Li Zhen. Ding! The Xiangang Corpse King waved his arms, easily blocking Yuxiao's Xingxiao flowing light sword. Yuxiao was startled, but he finally understood the opponent's strength. Sixth Realm. This is a sixth realm expert. The miracle world has its own hierarchy, and the prime material plane and the infinite dimension have their own systems. Mortals who begin by practicing only martial arts are called the first realm, corresponding to the mortals of the miracle world. Those who possess energies such as internal force, Zhenki, spiritual power, and mana, and are able to utilize them in a rudimentary manner, are considered the second realm, corresponding to the initial stage of the extraordinary. Once their energies reach immense levels, they can unleash a variety of astonishingly powerful moves. This is the third realm, the pinnacle of the extraordinary. Going higher, energy undergoes a qualitative transformation, and one's aura becomes transcendental. Not only does strength increase dramatically, but lifespan also increases, marking the transcendent realm. Li Zhen, for example, is currently entering the fourth realm. As for young Xiao, having already broken through to the quasi-heroic level, she transcends the average transcendent and can be considered a fifth realm powerhouse. The Xiangang Corpse King's attack power, purely in terms of output, is not much different from young Xiao's. This was also the balance point between the Corpse Bride and Fengdu's respective high-end combat capabilities during their duel, with neither side able to display power beyond the heroic level. He's definitely not a zombie that could be cultivated in this world. The Xiangang Corpse King blocked her Xingxiao flowing light sword, not with any special technique, but with his own body. This transcends the concept of the transcendent, entering a completely different dimension, the sixth realm, surpassing the fifth realm. The problem is that the laws of the prime material plane are inherently incomplete. Unless it can achieve a breakthrough to the level of a dimension, it will never produce a heroic level being, the sixth realm. This guy, Li Zhen, crossed his arms, while the old man and little girl beside him were tending to his injuries. Their abilities were quite unique. Rather than being some kind of martial arts technique, they were more like a unique supernatural power, the kind that was passed down through the family bloodline. This grandfather and grandson duo possessed extraordinary abilities. As long as they had a breath left, they could revive you even if you were poisoned. Senior Young Xiao, it's not the sixth realm? Li Zhen's judgment had some basis, because if it was the sixth realm, he would have died in a single encounter. After all, a sixth realm warrior had already stepped halfway into the realm of evil gods. No, old Li, you can resist this corpse king at the fourth realm, and the price is just an arm. It's not because it's weak, but because it can only exert the power of the fifth realm for some reason. The old black dog clearly saw things more clearly than Li Zhen and understood the Xiangang corpse king's weaknesses. Half a step to the sixth realm, that's a fight. Young Xiao was relieved that the Xiangang corpse king hadn't reached the exceptional heroic level, since now their strength was equal. The sword transforms into thousands, the universe flows with light. Under Young Xiao's control, the Xingxiao sword transformed into countless streams of light. Originally a single flying sword, it suddenly filled the narrow corridor with a dense, overwhelming mass, startling even the Xiangang corpse king. Ding 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 ding. The Xiangang corpse king's abilities were greatly limited, and his heroic awakening couldn't be used, so his advantages were almost non-existent. Unawakened, his extraordinary and transcendental skills weren't much stronger than Young Xiao's. His only advantage was that the corpse king's endurance was several times Young Xiao's. Damn it, this sword, the Xiangang corpse king said, feeling the electric sting in his arms. It's not a weapon from the underworld, female sword emperor. The corpse bride trembled with rage. She immediately understood the origins of Young Xiao and the Xingxiao sword. This woman and her divine weapon were all derived from the miraculous power of the female sword emperor. Isn't this considered a foul? Faced with a corpse bride's questioning, Mu Yunji and Ying Mulian resumed their discussion, this time involving Bai Luo's consciousness. Of course. Bai Luo was merely listening and observing, he didn't understand, so he couldn't offer his opinion. Does this count? Ying Mulian asked. Is she one of yours? No, Mu Yunji admitted that he had been caught in the crossfire this time. My people are all immortals, and this person clearly isn't. As the supreme ruler of the miracle world heavenly palace, Mu Yunji maintained a strict watch over the celestial maidens and fairies under his command. Desiring to descend to the mortal realm is a grave sin. If Mu Yunji learns of this, removing her immortal bones will be a standard procedure. Yes, there's indeed no mark of yours on her body. Ying Mulian asked Bai Luo to sense it as well, and he nodded. I didn't notice it either. The three witnesses unanimously confirmed that Yun Xiao's participation in the battle was not against the rules. She was originally from her native plane, and fighting for her homeland was perfectly reasonable. Chapter 407, Longing for the Lower Realm. That's actually reasonable, the corpse bride wanted to say. You three, no, you two, are you crazy? Prince Atón doesn't understand the rules here. So it's the decision of those two empresses. How despicable, truly despicable. From the corpse bride's perspective, Ying Mulian and Feng Du were both from the Eastern Empire, so she was clearly on Feng Du's side. And then there was Mu Yunji. He seemed neutral, but Young Xiao was clearly her man. They say they won't do anything, but what about this woman? The corpse bride didn't believe Mu Yunji hadn't sent anyone. Even if he hadn't, who could guarantee that those celestial maidens under Mu Yunji's command had no ties to Feng Du? However, the corpse bride was aware of the disparity in power between herself and the two empresses. Two high-ranking miracle lords, while she was only a lower-ranking one. If they were to clash, it would be a sure thing, with no hope of ever surpassing them in her lifetime. To some extent, the corpse bride's desire to survive was still strong. Fortunately, Mu Yunji didn't overhear her thoughts just now, otherwise, given the Sword Emperor's personality, she would have probably beaten the corpse bride. If they accused their celestial maiden of having an affair, Mu Yunji would be the first to punish them. There's hope. Young Xiao wasn't sure what had happened to the celestial gang corpse king, or why a sixth-level powerhouse was only at such a low level. She didn't know about the dimensional suppression, but simply assumed the celestial gang corpse king had just broken through, his realm unstable, and he hadn't yet mastered his power. But before Young Xiao could rejoice, she sensed waves of malevolent energy, closing in at alarming speed. I'll hold him off, you guys hurry, something was approaching. While not as powerful as the celestial gang corpse king, it was not far behind. The earthly evil corpse was also at the 5th level, far more powerful than Li Zhen. Even without Yang Xiao, a group of people would struggle to deal with just one. If there were so many, they would surely be annihilated. Want to leave? Roar! The Xiangang Corpse King waved his arms, blocking every attack from the Xingxiao sword as he bolted forward. His heavy footsteps struck like a hammer against everyone's chest. Move! Yuxiao roared, finally bringing everyone to their senses. Without hesitation, they headed for the safe passage marked on the map. Guided by the goo worms of the 2 Miao witches, they chose the one without evil spirits and quickly retreated. Don't even think about leaving. The Xiangang Corpse King was under immense pressure. He had been ordered by the Corpse Bride. If he were to be stopped by a swarm of ants from the lower realms, he couldn't imagine the punishment he would face upon his return. Despite his fierce appearance, he was more docile and obedient than a cat or a puppy in front of the Corpse Bride. If the most terrifying monster bred by the power of this underground palace was to be found, it was undoubtedly his master, the Queen of the East China Sea. HMPH, the two were now so close that Yang Xiao couldn't retreat. He recalled the Xingxiao sword and used it to block the Corpse King's claws. A clanging sound rang out, sparks flew, but with just half a step back, Yang Xiao withstood the immense pressure from the Xiangang Corpse King. What? The Xiangang Corpse King was stunned. He had never expected Yang Xiao to be able to withstand him. How is this possible? Although both of them were only able to release power at the 5th realm, at most at the peak of the 5th realm, the Xiangang Corpse King's physical fitness was heroic. When a transcendent soldier competes with a hero, the latter will definitely win. This is an absolute rule that cannot be cheated. Hence the next moment, the Xiangang Corpse King felt a burning pain in his arm. He quickly looked over and saw the Xingxiao sword in Yang Xiao's hand. There's something wrong with the sword, Mu Yunji. The Corpse Bride went completely berserk. You still say they were not yours? If they aren't, I'll devour an entire dimension right before your eyes. HMPH, Mu Yunji snorted, his displeasure not directed at the Corpse Bride, but at the celestial maidens under her command. Yang Xiao's knowledge of her Dao was nothing. The 49 heavenly transformations had appeared before, and with so many dimensions spawned from the corpses of its own miracle bearers, it made perfect sense for this miracle-based Dao to exist within the multiverse. But this sword, something was amiss. That sword bears my aura. Mu Yunji's miracle world was called the Heavenly Palace, encompassing 33 heavens, and the miracle resources used by the Xingxiao sword clearly came from her world. But the question was, who could wield the power of the 49 heavenly transformations without her command? Someone has descended to the mortal realm. There's something wrong with this girl. Mu Yunji could assure the Corpse Bride that he had absolutely no hand in this. However, the Corpse Bride wouldn't believe it, because the Lord of Miracles could have his subjects do things without telling him, making it impossible for them to distinguish truth from lies. Of course they couldn't tell. I really didn't do it, and the one who did was one of my subjects. So, I don't know, so how can that be called deception? Mu Yunji felt like this, unable to defend himself. That girl, and the sword in her hand. Ying Mulian looked at Mu Yunji, who stared intently at Feng Du, his eyes stern, as if to say, if you don't give me an explanation, I'll beat you up. That sword was made by one of my people. Mu Yunji carefully sensed the aura of the Xingxiao sword. She hadn't paid attention before, so she hadn't noticed it. Now, she sensed it, and wow, it was actually a divine artifact from the Tushita Palace. This person can forge a divine artifact from the Tushita Palace and have the right to conceal it from me and give it to someone in the lower realm? No, she can't be called someone in the lower realm anymore. Yuxiao is half celestial maiden blood. She's the illegitimate offspring of a celestial maiden from the Heavenly Palace. How dare you, really? How dare you? Mu Yunji felt completely humiliated by this shameless woman. She had previously vowed that all her subordinates were pure virgins. But now, she had not only gone to the mortal realm, but had also secretly married a mortal and even had a child. Feng Du, Mu Yunji was almost furious. If she hadn't cared about Feng Du's plotting against a Corpse Bride before, now this guy had even plotted against her. If she didn't beat him up, it would be outrageous. Calm down, Sister Sword Emperor, calm down. Feng Du hid behind the table. He kept winking at Ying Mulian. The Eastern Queen held her hands in the air, not knowing whether to stop him or let go. She was in a dilemma. Yunji, calm down for a moment. Give the Feng Du kid a chance to explain. Watching this scene, Bai Luo felt like he was watching another family drama. As Feng Du began to pull people into his consciousness, Bai Luo and the corpse bride joined them. Now, time outside practically stopped. Only once they had reached a conclusion would they continue. Chapter 408, The Jade Emperor Feminine. Feng Du, the corpse bride pointed at Feng Du and cursed him upon arrival. Do you have any shame? Calling in outside help is fine, but you even got a magical weapon crafted from a miracle object, at least a master-level weapon, and you're using it here. No wonder Feng Du was so confident he could defeat her. A master-level artifact, you could imagine its power. Brother, help me. Feng Du saw Bai Luo enter and shouted at him, she's so aggressive, and you're not going to do anything about it? Mu Yunji was furious and anxious when these words fell upon her. She wanted to fly into a rage, but considering Bai Luo's presence, she suppressed her anger. Feng Du meant no harm, he was just joking with Bai Luo. But Feng Du is truly a shrewd person. He had actually noticed that Mu Yunji and Bai Luo were friends, and even guessed something. Bai Luo wanted to say that Mu Yunji had nothing to do with him, but seeing Mu Yunji's expression, it was clear he cared deeply about his opinion. Hualala, a familiar voice echoed. Bai Luo quickly glanced at the black book, spotting the title of Tianyan 49, appearing on a new page. He immediately understood Mu Yunji's situation. Don't look at me. I know nothing, Bai Luo said to Mu Yunji, you handle it, whatever you want to do, don't worry about me. HMPH, Mu Yunji looked at Feng Du with disapproval, but also breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you very much, family matters matter to family. Mu Yunji was only halfway to being awakened by Bai Luo as a royal minister. As for the prerequisites, those had already been completed by his uncle, waiting for Bai Luo to officially begin his quest for Mu Yunji. So, while Mu Yunji wasn't Bai Luo's miraculous creature, subconsciously, she already had some similar concepts. For example, she had to respect Bai Luo, follow his advice, and not become his enemy. Add to that the traditional character of an oriental woman like Mu Yunji, and she had long considered herself Bai Luo's fiancée. Feng Du had seen this, and if Bai Luo really tried to persuade her, even if she was angry, she would have to respect Bai Luo's face and let him go. Fortunately, Bai Luo also respected Mu Yunji and would not interfere in other people's family affairs. And Bai Luo was not stupid, he immediately saw the cause and effect of this. Heavenly Transformation 49 appeared in the Black Book. If Bai Luo still didn't understand, he would definitely be a fool. Mu Yunji was the Lord of Miracles, but her strategy actually appeared in the Black Book. But this is too hypocritical, isn't it? Bai Luo didn't know how to complain about Mu Yunji. She didn't allow the celestial maidens under her command to think about the mortal world, but she herself had something in common with Bai Luo. By the way, would those celestial maidens really not rebel? Explain. Ying Mulian stopped a conflict, whether between Feng Du and the corpse bride or Mu Yunji and Feng Du. Hurry up and explain, little brat. If a fight breaks out, I'm afraid she'll kill you. Yes, explain immediately. I'll explain immediately. Feng Du asked Mu Yunji, Sir, female sword emperor, do you remember the Wuxian goddess you once cast down to the mortal world? Wuxian goddess? Bai Luo looked at Mu Yunji, whose expression suddenly changed, clearly recalling something unpleasant. It's her, after all. The Wuxian goddess was a title, roughly equivalent to a king-level miracle soldier. But this person's situation was unique. She wasn't just any miracle soldier, but Mu Yunji's biological sister. What a big piece of gossip. Upon learning about the Wuxian goddess's situation, Bai Luo immediately felt like he'd been caught on camera. That's not right. If she's his biological sister, then having a child wouldn't be a big deal, right? Bai Luo originally wanted to use himself and Inya as an analogy, but suddenly felt that this example was inappropriate. First of all, Mu Yunji is a woman, and she is not a lesbian, so who her sister likes and who she wants to marry, what does it have to do with Mu Yunji? However, Mu Yunji was furious because his sister fell in love with a mortal in the material plane. But after all, she was her own sister, and Mu Yunji could not kill her. So, she took away her sister's miraculous power, and sent her into reincarnation to be reborn. Mu Yunji naturally could not really let his sister be immortal, let alone let her fall in love with a man again during the reincarnation process. So every time he reincarnated, Mu Yunji arranged for his sister to be a Taoist practitioner, that is, a Taoist nun. Taoist nuns cannot marry and must maintain their purity for life. The reincarnation of the Wuxian goddess wasn't arranged by me. After all, I wasn't the Lord of Reincarnation at the time, Feng Du said with a smile. But since I control reincarnation, I can naturally access the past at will, and now, I've discovered something quite interesting, Feng Du said. The Wuxian goddess reincarnated and cultivated again, finally achieving perfection. She was once again received by the female sword emperor and granted the body of a celestial maiden. At that time, the Wuxian goddess was no longer known by that name. She was called Yunhe. Boom, a terrifying aura surged from Mu Yunji's body. For a moment, his entire consciousness seemed to be on the verge of collapse. If it weren't for Bai Luo and Yingmu Yan's support, it would have shattered on the spot. Yunhe, this seems to be a mythical figure, like the Wuxian goddess before her. Bai Luo recalled the story of Yunhe he knew in his previous life. It seemed that this fairy was the mother of Erlang Shen and San Shengmu. King of the East Sea, I have a question for you. Bai Luo approached the corpse bride and asked, does the Sword Queen command a three-eyed miraculous subject? Yes, the corpse bride replied. She's a celestial war god on par with Aola Kong of the Aola clan, as expected. With a younger sister in the rules of heaven, Bai Luo could almost imagine what the Sword Queen's projection in the multiverse would be. Isn't this just the Jade Emperor incarnated as a woman? Fairy Yunhe is the reincarnation of the goddess Yaoji. Even after you erased her memories, she still subconsciously yearns for freedom and happiness, Feng Du said. So, she fell in love with that former mortal, his reincarnation. This time, Yunhe's actions were clearly faster than Mu Yunji's. Not only did she marry the mortal, she also bore him 3 daughters. Mu Yunji, upon learning of this, was absolutely furious and immediately ordered her arrest and severe punishment. Okay, you're really great, Feng Du. Mu Yunji had basically figured out what had happened to his sister. Although Feng Du was eccentric and unreliable, he was also very emotional and kind-hearted. Seeing this couple, who had been forced to live out their lives in loneliness after reincarnation, Feng Du couldn't bear it and was moved by compassion. He quietly modified the reincarnation system, allowing the couple to rekindle their past love with each reincarnation. Chapter 409 Corpse Bride, if you dare to bully me, I will fight you. Is that even possible? Bai Luo discovered Feng Du's power was truly immense. He could decide a person's next reincarnation after death. While the Lords of Miracles were all-powerful, they each had their own distinct functions. Just as Feng Du couldn't create life, Bai Luo couldn't determine a person's next life. These were 2 completely different functions. Of course, if one day Bai Luo possessed a miracle related to death, he could establish a reincarnation system specific to Atón. But aren't you afraid of offending others by doing this? Of course I am now. Feng Du glanced at Mu Yunji, who was standing beside him. Although Mu Yunji, like him, had once reached the 4th awakening, Feng Du couldn't defeat the female sword emperor back then. She was at the upper level, while he was at the middle level. In a one-on-one fight, it was definitely no match. Back then, while there was a gap in power, it wasn't a crushing defeat. Unlike now, Mu Yunji had achieved the 5th awakening and was only ranked below a few great emperors, far from someone Feng Du could provoke. I'll give you one chance. Mu Yunji's voice was cold and deep, without a trace of negotiation. She was commanding Feng Du, tell me where the child's soul is, and bring her back. And that bastard, Mu Yunji said, I want his soul to be shattered. This was the first time Bai Luo had seen Mu Yunji angry. He thought to himself that the Lord of Miracles was still the Lord of Miracles after all, and his good temper was reserved for him. If it were anyone else, how could they possibly speak to him so kindly? I refuse. Unfortunately, Feng Du didn't back down. Instead, he stepped forward and stood before Mu Yunji. All living things have a destination. Fairy Yunhe has asked me to do this, and I have agreed. I will never let you find her unless she volunteers. With a Lord of Reincarnation helping to obscure his tracks, even Mu Yunji couldn't find his sister. Feng Du was a man with a strong sense of justice. When faced with injustice, he would stand up, even against the powerful. Fairy Yunhe has been reincarnated, all alone and helpless. Perhaps in Mu Yunji's eyes, this is for his sister's own good. Because as she cultivates, sooner or later she will be able to return to the heavenly palace and be with him. But Feng Du feels that not everyone thinks that obtaining miraculous powers is a happy thing. For Yunhe, being able to live like a mortal is what she longs for. This is not Feng Du's own idea, but Fairy Yunhe's own words. Calm down, Your Highness the Sword Emperor, please calm down. At the critical moment, the corpse bride actually blocked Feng Du's way, causing Bai Luo to widen his eyes. What's going on? Aren't you enemies? Bai Luo felt like he was being fed dog food. Could the corpse bride and Feng Du's conflict be due to that kind of relationship? Come to think of it, one plays with corpses, the other with ghosts, inexplicably a perfect match. Okay, Mu Yunji laughed in anger, but the next moment, a miraculous, earth-shattering force enveloped the two of them. With just the two of you, even if you were tied together, I wouldn't even bother you. Feng Du was fine, but the corpse bride's expression was displeased. 4 awakenings versus 5 awakenings, 2 of them at once. Even if you were the superior, so what? Was there really no fight? Why are you stopping me? Feng Du grabbed her hand. The corpse bride raged. Being superior? What's so great about that? I'm going to fight her today. Who's afraid of who? Corpse bride, dare to bully me, man. I'll fight you. Stop. Everyone, calm down. Everyone, calm down. Seeing a fight was about to break out, Bai Luo and Ying Mulian finally gave up and stopped the corpse bride and Mu Yunji respectively. In terms of pure combat power, Ying Mulian could easily defeat everyone present, but they were all considered part of the same group, and using force would be too hurtful. Therefore, Ying Muiying decisively resorted to force. Bai Luo observed the dangerous aura emanating from Ying Muiying, and the 3 miracle lords also glanced sideways, gasping. The power of a superstandard miracle was truly terrifying. It could be said that, aside from Bai Luo, Ying Muiying's miracle lord, the other 3 felt, to varying degrees, the oppression from the Eastern Empress. Anyone who dares to take action today will be declaring war on me. Ying Muiying's voice wasn't cold, but rather gentle, yet the unquestionable determination in his words held everyone's breath. Although I don't mind a fight, for the sake of your reputation, please refrain from such an unwise move. The miracle lord was invincible, but simply defeating him was easy for Ying Muiying. HMPH, Mu Yunji snorted, disgruntled, just shield him, don't be angry, Yunji. We can talk it out. Ying Mulian, who had always had a close relationship with Mu Yunji, quickly withdrew her arrogance and offered soothing words. I'll have Feng Du give you an explanation now. If he can't, I'll punish him for you. Big sister, you're actually helping an outsider. I'm only helping the right side of things, Ying Mulian said. No wonder you poured her tea just now. Were you ready? Thinking more closely, Feng Du deliberately provoked the corpse bride. His real motive wasn't her, but Mu Yunji. He wanted to resolve Yunhua's situation, which was why he orchestrated this whole thing. You actually schemed against me for another woman, the corpse bride felt like crying. Logically, Feng Du would have offered some comfort, but the steely man chose to ignore her and simply turned his back on her. Corpse bride, you're not trying to comfort me. I'm mad. I'm just about to explain, but please, Your Excellency the Sword Emperor, don't be so hasty. With Ying Muiying around, everyone let out some harsh words. If anyone really came to blows, the Eastern Empress would be a mountain to conquer. After all, no one besides Bai Luo could defeat her. I'll just watch, Bai Luo said, implying he didn't understand the situation and remained silent. You can do whatever you want. Reason? Mu Yunji questioned Feng Du. Why are you my enemy? Logically, I shouldn't meddle in other people's affairs, Feng Du said, but I did anyway. You should all know that I govern reincarnation, and I preside over the 3 lives and 3 worlds of all things. Fairness is everything, Feng Du explained. If you were a bad person in your previous life, you will be punished after death, and then suffer in your next life. Once you've washed away all the dust, you can live a happy and fulfilling life in the next. So, don't talk about a tragic fate. Misfortune will eventually pass, and happiness will come sooner or later. This is Feng Du's philosophy of governing reincarnation. However, what did Fairy Yunhua do wrong? Feng Du stood up because Mu Yunji did 2 things that he could not accept. Chapter 410 Stop them. First, you've violated the fairness and justice of reincarnation. Fairy Yunhua had committed no crime. She must be punished for it in every lifetime. This wasn't just one person's fault. It was Mu Yunji who had first interfered with Feng Du's reincarnation. Feng Du, are you telling me what to do? Second, you're stronger than me. You're the Lord of the Celestial Palace, Feng Du said. So, in this reincarnation, do I have to submit to your tyranny? If the Jade Emperor said this person must be punished, then she must be punished. Then what was the point of his underworld? To clean up the mess for his superiors? Furthermore, While reincarnation was a subordinate miracle of Xian'an 49, Fengdu wasn't Mu Yunji's subordinate. If someone offended you, Fengdu said, like that man, and you wanted to kill him, I understand, and I'd help you. What? Bai Luo's eyes widened. He had thought Fengdu was a principled man, but he hadn't expected this. But if you think about it, it makes sense. Fengdu controls reincarnation, and as a member of the miracle group, he naturally has to maintain the dignity of the other kings. His head follows his butt, and Fengdu sometimes bypasses his principles. For example, if someone insults Bai Luo, and Bai Luo demands that Fengdu arrange 1,000 reincarnations to make that person suffer forever, is Fengdu likely to refuse? Of course he would. This is basic emotional intelligence, the bridge that maintains his friendly relationship with Bai Luo. Because only if he maintains this relationship will Fengdu help him if Fengdu needs his help someday. The Lord of Miracles controls different realms, yet uses this kind of transaction to achieve what he couldn't otherwise do. But Fairy Yunhe is not that man. Yunhe is a miracle citizen of Mu Yunji, and back then, Fengdu was also a miracle citizen of the Eastern Empress, so they were considered close friends. Corpse Bride, oh, you actually did it for another woman, and she's a married man. What are you thinking? We're just friends, really? Do you want me to show you my heart? I believe you. Hey, you two, that's enough, Bai Luo said, his mouth full of dog food. If you make any more noise, I'll beat you up. I understand the whole story, Ying Muliang said. Fengdu and Yunhe are friends. We all know this. He became the Lord of Miracles, but seeing his former comrade being punished like this, it's only natural for him to help. After all, at this point, Fengdu's status was equal to Mu Yunji's. He had no reason to be afraid of her. Wouldn't that be inferior? So you're saying I'm so cruel that I'd even kill my own sister? This statement was absolutely true, as Mu Yunji's attitude towards his subordinates seemed to truly reflect this. According to the strict celestial rules, any celestial maiden or female immortal who violated them would be punished. At the very least, they would be banished to the mortal realm, the material plane, to retrain, while more serious punishments would result in the loss of their miracle powers and eternal exile. This is too futile, Bai Luo complained, unable to find the right words. He finally understood why Mu Yunji cared so much about the agreement with his uncle. It was precisely because of feudalism and tradition that Mu Yunji placed such high value on the engagement. If Bai Luo broke off the engagement, it was a good thing Mu Yunji wasn't mortal, otherwise he might have hanged himself to prove his integrity. I'm not forbidding her from marrying, Bai Luo's rant made Mu Yunji furious. But she should at least choose someone of equal status, right? If Yaoji had told her that she loved Fengdu and wanted to marry him, would Mu Yunji have disagreed? Of course, this was just an example, implying that even if her sister were to marry, she had to marry a man of integrity. But what the hell was that man? A worthless wretch from the lower planes of the material world, incapable of even the power of miracles, who had actually taken the dripping cabbage she had planted with her own hands. This was intolerable. Feudal patriarchal qualities. No, I don't agree. If you dare walk out this door, don't come back. I will sever our mother-daughter relationship. Heavenly Transformation 49, level, upper miracle type, Miracle Will Awakening, 5th Awakening Miracle Mission, make the female Sword Emperor truly accept her brother-in-law and reconcile the two sisters. Fuck, seeing this miracle mission, Bai Luo felt like dying. Swish, the sound of flipping pages echoed. Bai Luo took a look. Oh my god, a double trap, Gate of Unending Freedom, level, middle miracle type, Miracle Building Awakening, 4th Awakening Miracle Mission, rescue all the evil spirits in hell, dispel resentment, and ensure the fairness and justice of reincarnation. Fengdu's mission should be twofold. One is to rescue the evil spirits and dissipate the resentment in hell, and the second is to ensure the fairness and justice of reincarnation. This one's also really hard. Bai Luo had originally just wanted to watch the show, but now with two miracles before him and a chance to subdue them, he had no choice but to fight. Let's leave this matter at that. Are you still going to fight the miracle battle? Yes, the corpse bride said dissatisfiedly. Why not? He didn't beat me. Although Fengdu intended to resolve the issue with Fairy Yunhe, it had arranged the miracle battle to invite Bai Luo and Ying Mulian to the scene, which would be safer. However, he was also serious about the corpse bride's persecution of the lower planes, causing countless people to become zombies that transcended the 6 paths. Snap, Bai Luo snapped his fingers, disabling everyone's mind space. At the same time, the flow of time outside returned to normal. Yuxiao continued to fight the Xiangang Corpse King. Because she wielded the Xingxiao sword, which rivaled the power of the master, the Xiangang Corpse King was temporarily at a disadvantage and was outmatched. "We can't leave this way." The Miaojiang sisters' poisonous insects continuously relayed news of encounters with a Corpse King. Led by the two sisters, the group continued to search for a passage free of resentment. During this time, they encountered numerous terrifying ghouls and corpse demons. Fortunately, with the underground palace map in Old Black Dog's hands and the desperate battles of Li Zhen and his companions, they were able to overcome crisis after crisis. Bang! Seeing these people getting closer and closer to their position, even the corpse bride slammed her hands on the armrest in panic. "We're losing, huh?" However, instead of continuing in the direction of the corpse bride, these people changed direction. Where are they going? The corpse bride opened the map of the underground palace and began to deduce their destination. Suddenly, she was terrified. "Oh no, hurry, hurry, everyone, get over there." The corpse bride anxiously shouted, "Stop them, don't let them enter that underground palace." Roar! Suddenly, a tide of corpses surged like a sea, and all the underground monsters were on the rampage, chasing them madly. Chapter 411. You two must take full responsibility. Are they crazy? Why is this happening? The group had never witnessed such a commotion. Old Black Dog panted, "This proves we're on the right track." They're anxious. Something's driving them crazy, the source of the evil. It must be the source. Their goal was to eliminate the source of the plague. Seeing the monsters in the underground palace so anxious, didn't that mean they were getting closer? Don't stop. Keep running. Li Zhen had been fighting on the front lines. Even with the treatment of 2 miracle doctors, he was still seriously injured and unable to recover quickly. This was because he had used many forbidden techniques, repeatedly overloading his body. In this world, all mystical powers have only 2 sources, miraculous power and dimensional power. While they are essentially the same thing, the Lord of Dimensions is like a checkpoint, a barrier in the middle, causing many to choose to borrow power from other dimensions rather than directly confront the miraculous power itself, which is like the Great Dao. Li Zhen is a martial artist who utilizes the power systems of internal force and Zenki. It originated from the Void Realm, the miraculous power of the martial ancestor, one of the 20 kings of the Eastern Empire. However, because Li Zhen was not the martial ancestor's miraculous son, his Zenki was entirely supplied by an alien dimension. This was a transaction, and everyone present was essentially like Li Zhen, trading with dimensional beings. Since it was a transaction, it inevitably came with a price. Li Zhen could already feel his body crumbling, and something like will, spirit, and soul was opening a door. Behind this door lay the world from which his power came. If necessary, Li Zhen thought to himself, even if it means death, even if it means letting the monsters from that world in, I must stop them. The dimension had established a connection with him. Li Zhen had no idea what a dimension was, nor did he have any concept of it, but he was well aware of the power of higher powers. When forced to do so, he dared to do anything. Crash! Suddenly, everyone's eyes brightened, and the space ahead widened from narrow. Looking up, they saw a palace of unimaginable grandeur. Not good. The corpse bride's face suddenly changed, and Feng Du followed suit. This is terrible. So, this is also part of the game. Feeling the apologies conveyed by the two, Bai Luo opened his eyes. He no longer needed to sense those people, as they were now standing at the entrance to Bai Luo's underground palace. What are you doing? Ying Mulian's temper had improved significantly in recent years due to her injuries, but she didn't know that back then, she had fought her way out of the Eastern Empire in the northern continent. Big sister, sorry, the Eastern Empress raged, and Feng Du and the corpse bride quickly lowered their heads, like 2 elementary school students who had made a mistake, not daring to look her in the eye. If they still had the courage to fight against Mu Yunji, then against Ying Mulian, they didn't even think about it. Indeed, Mu Yunji said. You led people to Lord Atón. What if those lowly people offended him? It was my mistake. Ying Mulian thought it was impossible to solve the problem with just an apology. If it had been Ying Mulian who was offended, she might have been more lenient, but Bai Luo was her brother. The precious jewel in her hand, fog, had been tampered with. What was tolerable? No problem, Bai Luo didn't have the arrogance of the Lord of Miracles. I think it's quite interesting. Bai Luo didn't care. He stood in the main hall of the underground palace with his hands behind his back. Fu Xing and Yugen on either side had already knelt on the ground, their faces buried in their hands. You two should get up too. We dare not. Fusang and Yuga already knew they had done the wrong. The corpse bride had told them to protect Bai Luo's exquisite corpse. If any damage occurred, they would be punished severely. Meanwhile, Feng Du and the corpse bride have reached a consensus. In the crucial moment, between Bai Luo's incarnation and this plane, they will choose the latter without hesitation. This also means that if anyone truly touches Bai Luo's exquisite corpse, Fusang and the others will unleash a power beyond the planes will, utterly destroying this world. Maya, are you interested? Me. Maya has always been by Bai Luo's side, less like a miracle worker and more like a little maid. Of course, in Maya's mind, she is Bai Luo's little maid, and always will be. If Brother Bai Luo wants to see, I can also perform for you. Having mastered this new power, Maya has recently been asking her uncle how to use the power of the Dao fruit, and now she has some experience. If the miracle dragon awakens again and bestows blessings, Maya is expected to achieve a significant breakthrough. Your Highness, Atón, however, Fusang and Yuga pleaded, if you do it yourself, our Lord's reputation will be tarnished again. Please leave it to us, please. The two women didn't dare order Bai Luo, saying anything like condescend to watch from the sidelines. Anyone who dared to teach the Lord of Miracles how to do things would probably lose their life. Alright, Bai Luo was now a man of status and position. There was no reason to continue playing around with some scum who wasn't even a child of miracles. It would be too demeaning. But I do have one request, Bai Luo said. Make it more exciting, can you do that? Seeing Bai Luo agree, the two women breathed a sigh of relief. Then, looking at each other, they replied in unison, we won't let you down. They had been navigating the layers of the underground maze, but now, inexplicably, they had arrived in such a vast space. For a moment, they were truly overwhelmed. An underground palace, such a massive one. Li Jian's face was filled with astonishment. His eyes widened in disbelief as he stared ahead at the massive mausoleum that seemed to float in the subterranean space. Floating? What kind of trick is this? Using his internal energy, Li Jian could fly, but everything, even the massive underground palace, seemed suspended in midair. Such a feat could be considered divine. The monsters have stopped, the female healer panted, turning back to see the monsters retreating. Great. We're on the right track. Here, this is what we're looking for, a meteorite. Unlike Li Jian, Old Black Dog hadn't been a tomb robber. He had seen something similar in the Qin Emperor's mausoleum before. It must have been a meteorite. No, Taoist Lin quickly squatted down, stroking the gravel on the ground. This isn't a meteorite, I sense a powerful force, just up ahead. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 412 Please me, mortals. The Underground Palace, we've found it. Old Black Dog was studying the map, about to read it when it suddenly burst into flames. Map, impossible. How could this happen? Taoist priest Lin tried to take the map from Old Black Dog, but the moment his hand touched it, it crumbled to ash, leaving him no time to put out the flames. This map is a treasure from the underworld. Nothing should be able to destroy it. Crack, 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 crack. Slow, clear applause echoed from afar. The group barely looked up when they were at the entrance, in the center of the square outside the palace. Simultaneously, halberd-wielding guards, resembling terracotta warriors, poured in from all directions like a pitch-black torrent. Hurrah! In unison, thousands of icy halberds pointed at the fewer than 20 remaining tomb robbers. If they were born in modern times, they would have witnessed such scenes in movies. But this was the Republic of China. There might have been gunfire and hail, but the sheer scale of the military might made even the strongest, Li Jian, shudder. It's over. Surrounded by so many, it was impossible for anyone to remain calm, especially the grandfather and grandson of the doctor. They felt a wave of palpitations, their ears ringing with the pounding of their heartbeats. Cold sweat broke out on their backs, and a chill ran from their tailbone to their foreheads. Especially those pitch-black arrows, pointed at by so many sharp arrows, felt like thousands of guns pointed at you. You had to worry not about your own death, but about the possibility of one of the guns accidentally going off, and you'd be finished. Maybe they were just trying to scare you, but could you guarantee it wouldn't? This was the terror of having your life in someone else's hands. Thump, thump, thump. But just when everyone thought they were about to die, the terracotta warriors made way, and behind them lay the pure white stairs leading to the palace platform. "I give you a round of applause for coming here," the voice came suddenly, but the presence of someone meant that the matter was not beyond negotiation. So far, they'd encountered nothing but zombies and modified, mutated insect monsters. The voice's owner was likely the only person they could interact with within the underground palace. Looking in their direction, they spotted a young man. With short, silvery white hair and dressed in classic Chinese clothing, his features leaned towards Oriental, yet with a distinct, almost unique aesthetic. The eight were a unique people. They weren't European or American, but rather possessed a blend of both. Take Bai Luo, for example. He seemed a hybrid of Chinese and Western descent, though his appearance and demeanor weren't entirely masked by his foreign genetic makeup. Physically, Bai Luo perfectly balanced both European and Asian aesthetics. Simply put, Asians would focus on his Asian features, while Europeans would prioritize their first impressions. If people from both countries spoke together, they might think Bai Luo was from their own country. In contrast, the sisters, Inya and Isifia, were of thoroughly European descent, leaning towards British. Foreigner, however, Li Zhen noticed the young woman beside Bai Luo. He looked at Maya, completely stunned. Why is there a foreigner here? If Bai Luo's hair color was just different, then Maya was completely impersonating a Japanese soldier. Could it be that someone from outside got in before us? Swish, before Li Zhen could even think, thousands of terracotta warriors suddenly knelt at Bai Luo's appearance, saluting a single individual. Li Zhen was stunned. He couldn't imagine why the terracotta warriors would submit to the young man before him. With such an attitude, he definitely couldn't be an outsider. But the feeling Bai Luo gave Li Zhen was certain that he had absolutely no corpse aura, and even had a considerable amount of vitality pulsating from him. Such a person couldn't possibly be a corpse buried here, he was alive. "You probably can't tell the difference, right?" she said. "This body looks just like an ordinary person," Bai Luo said. "That's interesting. I never thought a corpse could be reanimated. It's truly eye-opening. Unfortunately, you took the wrong path. If you had turned left, you would have been on the right path." Bai Luo ascended the tall stairs, step by step. Each landing was like a hammer, striking everyone's heart. Gulp. While Bai Luo clearly didn't possess any special energy, the aura he exuded was indescribable. "No, he's different. He's different from us." Pharmacist Park's voice trembled. The old man held his wrist tightly. "Our life levels are vastly different from his." The old pharmacist had encountered a being similar to Bai Luo before, an evil god from the wilderness. When the evil god descended, the old pharmacist felt just like he was now. But even more than that, Bai Luo was even more terrifying than that evil god, far more powerful. "You seem quite afraid of me. I think you must have sensed something." Bai Luo clapped his hands softly. He stopped and sat down on the stairs, looking down at the crowd from above. "I have to admit, this body isn't very convenient. If it were, never mind. There's no point in telling you all this, but I do admire you. As a mortal, I was able to walk all the way down from the top. Even with a map that guy gave me, I've done it. I don't deny the saying that success is the measure of a hero." Seeing that no one spoke, just staring at him blankly, Bai Luo clapped his hands and said, "All right, let me give you a brief overview of the current situation. You want to eliminate the root cause, so you went down to the tomb and explored this underground palace. However, for some reason, the owner of the underground palace has transferred a decision-making power here to me." As Bai Luo spoke, he glanced at the corpse bride and Feng Du in his mind space. They both bowed their heads in agreement. There was no way he couldn't agree. Mu Yunji and Ying Mulian were still staring at them. Because of their mistake, they had offended Bai Luo. Now, there was nothing wrong with handing the decision of the outcome of the miracle battle to Bai Luo. After all, it was just an insignificant material plane. If it weren't for the conflict between these two enemies, neither of them would care about such a small benefit. To put it bluntly, this world was like a plate thrown out by the couple during an argument. It wouldn't matter if it didn't break, but it would be painful if it did. "I won't talk about anything too complicated, I'll only tell you one thing," Bai Luo said calmly, narrowing his eyes slightly. "If you can't please me, I will destroy heaven and earth and make this world disappear." Chapter 413. My dear ministers, who will help me destroy this world? Destroy heaven and earth. Everyone was stunned at the word. They looked at Bai Luo in confusion, their eyes filled with disbelief and suspicion. It wasn't just them. Feng Du and the corpse bride were also a little confused. Lord Atón, Feng Du whispered softly, isn't this a bit too harsh? I think it's quite reasonable. Corpse bride, they did offend Lord Atón. Lord Atón, it's okay, I support you. Let this world be destroyed, I don't mind, I just think. Feng Du wanted to say something, but Mu Yunji's murderous eyes were already glaring at him. In an instant, he crouched down in his arms, his head in his hands. Sister, I was wrong. Can I not speak or express my opinion? Please spare me. Mu Yunji was now completely focused on Feng Du. He could not guarantee that he would launch a miracle war against him upon his return. Yunho must be found and brought back. She was Mu Yunji's biological sister. There was no way she could live in Feng Du's miracle kingdom. However, Feng Du didn't want to fight Mu Yunji. Firstly, he was certain to lose, and secondly, he didn't like using anyone as a stake in the miracle war, especially Fairy Yunhua, whom Feng Du considered a friend. Don't worry, I won't make it difficult for you two. Bai Luo had already been tasked with subjugating Feng Du and Mu Yunji. This spoke volumes about their personalities. At least in terms of their attitudes, neither of them harbored ulterior motives. Instead, they revealed their true thoughts and sides to Bai Luo. This alone made it impossible for Bai Luo to abandon them. At the Council of Kings, Bai Luo realized the difficulty of fighting alone. He needed strength, more strength. Feng Du and Mu Yunji were undoubtedly two ready-made, complete miracle lords, the kind with their own miracle realms. If he could subjugate them, Bai Luo felt he would immediately return Ying Mullion. He wouldn't even want the Eastern Empire. With Feng Du's underworld, Mu Yunji's heavenly palace, and King Quin's kingdom, Bai Luo could more than build a powerful nation. Military strength wasn't a problem. With top-tier combat power, Ying Mullion back, and the addition of Ali and Mu Yunji, he didn't need any empire. At that point, even if he truly couldn't win, Bai Luo could withdraw to avoid massive losses. But since you've given me the choice, Bai Luo said, then you don't mind letting me have some fun, do you? No, Your Excellency, Atón, please do as you please. Me neither. Mu Yunji also said he'd just observe. As for Ying Mullion, she only cared about her own people. The Eastern Empress always held a disdain for the mortals of the lower planes. Just don't get carried away, then watch, everyone. Bai Luo had gained absolute control and could finally let loose. I see doubt in your eyes. Excellent, I like your reaction. If I were you, I wouldn't believe it either. Bai Luo said this, then, through the miracle contract, he addressed all miracle people and miracle creatures directly, declaring, everyone, now sense the material plane I am in and locate this place. The world they inhabited wasn't the universe. In other words, while it had the sun, moon, and stars, it wasn't actually a blue planet, not even a planet. It was merely a plane, akin to an island floating in the void. The senior sister looked up. She didn't ask, merely awaiting Bai Luo's request. Locate what? Lilith quickly sensed Bai Luo's planet, a lower plane. Master, I can't get in. Surely, that world is too fragile. If I go there, I'll crush it. Surely, don't move rashly. Locate first, Bai Luo said. Where are the others, boss? What do you need? Leon stood by at all times. The Reed family of Ancient Tales responded in the same way. Please tell us, we have a way to get there. Ancient Tales has a special method that can create special avatars to descend into the world beyond. It must be said that the Reed family's control over the power of miracles is truly extraordinary from a subtle perspective. After all, there are 6 of them. Do I count? Brother Bai Luo, do I count? King Quin was a little confused. She had just arrived and hadn't expected Bai Luo to send a group message. It's just a lower plane. Are you asking us to go there? Xiao Luo is angry, said the old uncle, who really understood Bai Luo best. He asked back, do you want us to destroy it? Uncle understands me, Bai Luo said, anyone can do it. Come on, destroy this plane for me, King Quin, I'm familiar with this. I can do it. Xiao Bai, what's wrong with you? On Atón Island, Bai Yinro was eating buns with Inya. Seeing her stunned for a moment, the latter asked quickly, did you find something delicious? No. As her level increased, Bai Yinro's temperament also improved a lot. Now she's almost like an ordinary girl. Although she is still a little dazed, it is due to her personality and it is difficult to change. Master is calling me, Bai Yinro said. It seems we're going to some dimension, Inya was overjoyed. Take me alone. I haven't been to any other dimension yet. I'll ask for you, Bai Luo wanted to ask, but the miracle network was crowded. Bai wasn't the talkative type, and with so many people around, he couldn't find a chance to interrupt. Helplessly, Bai Luo said to Inya, there are too many people. I can't get a chance to speak, the competition is so fierce. Inya's mouth dropped open in disbelief. Even the end is so difficult now. Terrifying. By the way, why did you ask us there? Master said. Bai Luo said, to destroy that world. Inya, she had thought it was just a sightseeing trip, but she didn't expect such a grand gesture right from the start. Inya, you're pathetic, weak, and helpless. Farewell. Haha. Hearing this, Shura suddenly puffed himself up, his right eye suddenly flashing with a silvery white light. Let me do it. I alone am enough, my lord. Meanwhile, above the material plane where everyone resided, the once pitch-black night sky gradually brightened, and the silver moon, resembling a jade disk, grew larger at a visible rate. Hey! Shura, you're going too far. I haven't said anything yet. Leon was a little displeased. He and Shura had been getting along well lately, but Shura had snuck away from such a competitive opportunity. Even the proud Leon was dissatisfied, saying, Boss, that doesn't count. With that, Leon began to mobilize his own miraculous power, preparing to wrest sovereignty of the moon from Shura. Chapter 414 Change. What moon do you want to fly to? What bicycle do you want? Leon, what are you doing? You, feeling the moon steadily slipping away from his control, Shura knew he was no match for Leon on his own. He quickly said to Bai Luo, my lord, look at him. He's going too far. If you can't beat him, tell your parents, Leon said. Have some shame, Shura. Bang. Just as the two were arguing, a brilliant beam of light, transcending infinite dimensions, slammed into the moon. In an instant, a massive explosion, indescribably beautiful, erupted in the inky black starry sky. Leon, Shura, who is this? How could this happen? The other party had simply blown up the moon they were controlling. You're too slow. Ali appeared with the four gods of the great wilderness. In reality, Zhongbu Mifi'i once again raised her bow and loaded her arrow. Wow. Well done, magnificent. Nutrition and Genki Shen applauded, praising Fairy Change's excellent shot. Change shot the moon to pieces, Bai Luo said, feeling strangely disoriented. What the hell, but I don't think I told you to do it, did I? Bai Luo facepalmed. The decisive actions of the four great desolate gods had somewhat disrupted his rhythm. Bai Luo's plan was to gradually build up the apocalyptic crisis, so they would feel a sense of urgency. But now, the moon had simply collapsed. Even if it was just a single plane, if the moon were gone, a mere tidal surge could bring devastating disaster to that plane. Well, the four great desolate gods were visibly embarrassed. The two who had been applauding fell silent, and Change looked even more flustered. I'm sorry, it's my fault, it's nothing. Disobeying the Lord of Miracles was a serious matter for a creature of miracles. That was the fundamental problem. Next time, give me some respect and don't act so quickly. Of course, as their superior, Bai Luo immediately reassured Change, telling her not to worry and to try not to do it again. Who can repair it? I can. Me too. Shura and Leon both possess the power to control the sun and moon. In fact, Bai Luo had recently gained this ability as well, but unfortunately, she was too reserved to speak out loudly. Then leave it to Shura. You're in charge this time, beautiful. Shura, having taken control, immediately gave Leon a provocative look. They were currently dining at classes on Atón Island. Sorry, I have work to do. You guys eat well. Shura was delighted. Bai Luo had so many miracles under his command, and this was a rare opportunity to show them off in front of his lord. He couldn't help but be excited. Uncle Glass, this meal's on me. Everyone, I'm treating this guy. Leon's mouth twitched slightly. Look how proud he is. Shura stood up and left. Once he reached an open space, he formally focused his consciousness on that plane and began repairing the moon destroyed by Change. Lord, I've repaired the moon for you. Please give your instructions. Shura, shall we drop it now? Go ahead. Bai Luo looked at the restored moon. But keep your speed in check. When I say so, you'll smash it down immediately. While the moon in this dimension wasn't as large as Earth's, it was definitely not small. If it fell, it would surely rip the entire world apart. Don't worry, Lord, Sure had possessed his miraculous power for some time, and after learning from his uncle an old reed, he was now quite adept at it. Bai Luo returned his consciousness to reality and snapped his fingers. The next moment, a scene flashed through everyone's minds. Across the starry sky, the moon, once suspended high above the earth, was now approaching at an astonishing speed. What? Those present probably didn't even know what the moon looked like. Yet, at this moment, they simultaneously understood the previous scene and the information it contained about the earth, the starry sky, and the moon. How is this possible? This kind of thing is impossible. Li Zhen was in disbelief. Bai Luo's power was beyond his imagination. The moon was about to fall. Is this something a human could do? The grandfather and grandson of the medical family were still in a state of confusion. Bai Luo's existence had overturned their values and worldview. Liar, you're lying. Behind Li Zhen, a one-eyed middle-aged man dressed as a bandit stood up. He pointed at Bai Luo and shouted, "If this is true, why are you setting up such a formation here? If you can destroy heaven and earth, why would you leave us behind? Yes, why would you leave us behind? So it's fake, it must be fake." There were nearly 20 people in the group, but at least half of them sided with the one-eyed middle-aged man. Bai Luo shook his head and said, "I don't like them." Boom! The earth-shattering miraculous power surged like a tsunami in a landslide, instantly engulfing the 20 people present, and more than half of them fell. This, Li Zhen, still dazed, immediately checked everyone's situation. No breath. They're dead. The sudden change, this death that completely overturned their entire perspective, instantly devastated the remaining people. Especially the young, yet incredibly gifted female healer. She hated seeing people die, but now, with over half of them gone, how could she accept it? Why? The young woman, Lianjun, ignored her grandfather's attempts to stop her and shouted at Bai Luo, "Didn't you say you wanted us to play with you? Why did you kill them? That's ridiculous." A cold hand landed on the back of Lianjun's neck. Yuga caressed the girl's soft skin, shaking her head and sighing, "Pathetic people. You can't even see the magnitude of the being you're facing. Who do you think this prince is?" Suddenly, a figure dressed in magnificent palace attire, resembling a celestial goddess, appeared behind Bai Luo and Maya. Fusang gestured to Bai Luo first, and after receiving permission, she leaped over the two and slowly descended the stairs. "Play, not everyone is worthy of pleasing this distinguished prince. Fusang, do you know why you were allowed to stay here? It's not because you're better than them, but simply because you're luckier than them. You are honored to be chosen by His Highness and worthy of pleasing all the supreme rulers." These words were not just addressed to Bai Luo alone, but to every Lord of Miracles who was paying attention to this place. Chapter 415, let's make it a little more difficult. Well said. Bai Luo found Fusang quite impressive. She had actually read his mind. Now, let me announce the rules of the game. From now on, you have approximately 10 minutes, because in 10 minutes, the moon above you will fall, Bai Luo, and within these 10 minutes, if you can inflict even the slightest scratch on either of them, you win. If you win, you'll save the world. This is my reward. If not, Bai Luo snapped his fingers, and an image of the approaching moon hung overhead. "It seems I don't need to punish you any further. Begin." Bai Luo gave the remaining 8 no time to react. As soon as he finished speaking, Ugui released her grip. The young girl, Lianjun, shuddered. Within Ugui's palm, a pale blue shadow was being extracted from Lianjun's body. That was her soul. Once lost, she would be as good as dead. Soul Reaper, Taoist Lin waved the peach wood sword in his hand, and a stream of yellow talismans continuously flowed from his sleeve. Snap! With a gentle wave of her white sleeves, all the yellow talismans were incinerated. Seeing this, Master Lin suddenly realized, she's a zombie too. These yellow talismans, regardless of their strength, would spontaneously combust upon encountering evil spirits or resentment, acting as a warning. The fact that Ugui could cause the talismans to react meant she must be a creature from the underworld, not a living being. Nonsense, being called a zombie. Ugui's brows lit up with a hint of anger, despite her good temper. She casually slapped her palms, one striking Lianjun's back and the other smacking Master Lin through the air. Bang! With a deafening explosion, Master Lin was forcibly sent flying. As for Lianjun, she spat out a mouthful of black blood, her entire body covered in a layer of frost at a visible speed. Girl, Elder Park, disregarding the danger, rushed forward. He knelt beside his granddaughter and grasped her wrist. What's going on? A powerful evil spirit, Cold, so cold, Grandpa, Lianjin collapsed to the ground. Seeing this, Zhang Xianqi no longer cared about his own safety. A torrent of lightning surged from his body. His strength and speed skyrocketed, and Zhang Xianqi, relying on this skill, managed to hold off Yuga for several rounds. Unfortunately, the gap between the two was too great. According to the Atón level, Yuga was a master of the domain. Even without the domain or the heroic awakening, she possessed absolute power that crushed ordinary people. In comparison, Zhang Xianqi, Master Lin, and Li Zhen were all merely transcendent level, and transcendent level beings without the protection of the law. To put it bluntly, the power of dimension is like floating duckweed. Thinking you've borrowed some power is truly ridiculous, Ugui said. She rolled up her long sleeves, revealing her snow-white hands. Then, she casually tapped the chests of Zhang Xianqi, the nearest of them, and Taoist Lin and Li Zhen, who had just risen. Bang, 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 3 loud bangs erupted within the 3 men. The 8 extraordinary meridians, even the so-called Danshan and Qi Hai, the vessels that contain dimensional energy, were so easily shattered by Ugui. Decades of painstaking training, undone in a single blow. This earth-shattering transformation left everyone's vision darkened, nearly causing them to faint. 5. Ugui dispatched the 5. She looked at the still-standing old black dog and the Meow sisters. You are unworthy to fight me. Surrender now, and don't waste our time. If it weren't for the constraints of the plane, fearing the destruction of this world, Ugui could have instantly dispatched them with a single glance. Unfortunately, Bai Luo was watching from the side. While Ugui appeared powerful in front of the others, in front of Bai Luo, she was no more than a humble maid. Hurry up, don't keep His Highness waiting, Bai Luo told them to do as they pleased, but how could the 2 women take it seriously? The corpse bride had sent them messages many times, asking them to end this farce quickly. This miracle battle itself was the corpse bride's attempt to get close to Bai Luo and make her life easier in the future, while Feng Du hoped to use the power of Ying Muliang and Bai Luo to help his close friend, Fairy Yunhui. Feng Du also knew the stakes of plotting against a Lord of Miracles, so he had prepared gifts and was ready to apologize to Bai Luo and Ying Muliang at any time. Do you think the corpse bride should apologize? Feng Du, I plotted against her to give her face, okay. You can't even beat one of them, and there's another one here, what should we do? In reality, Bai Luo didn't find it boring. He waved his hand and moved the grandfather and grandson of the medical family, who had lost their fighting ability, away, but the remaining 6 people still had to fight. Brother Bai Luo, Maya asked, do you want to see the difference between dimensional power and miracle power? It's a rare opportunity, I definitely want to see it. Unfortunately, their strength was too weak, and Bai Luo couldn't get enough information. I'm a little disappointed. If only they were a little stronger. For someone of Bai Luo's status, being able to play with them here was truly a great honor. If he hadn't wanted to take this opportunity to see the dimensional power in action up close, Bai Luo wouldn't have stayed here any longer. He'd be better off looking for Feng Wei, whose mission still lay unfinished. That's not a problem. I have a plan. After Maya finished speaking, Bai Luo understood what she meant. Are you talking about the young Xiao from before? Do you need me to call her over, Brother Bai Luo? How? Bai Luo smiled faintly. He looked at Fu Sang, who stood by, and said, fighting like this is getting too boring. I'll call someone else over, Lord Atón. Fu Sang was puzzled, but the next moment, an incredibly sharp sword energy enveloped both her and Yuge. This, Fu Sang was surprised, not by young Xiao's strength, but by the fact that she could actually barge in directly from above the Imperial Mausoleum. Was the Xiangang Corpse King eating shit? Shouldn't he have stopped this person? You really have given us sisters a difficult problem. Young Xiao's strength was only that of a quasi-hero, but the sword she wielded was something special, a master-level artifact. Since the sisters couldn't exert any power above heroic level, they were afraid they might lose face here if they weren't careful. They wouldn't be injured, but being hit by a mere mortal, a child of miracles, had to have some dignity. That's right, Bai Luo smiled, since I'm here to watch the fight, it would be so boring if you don't go down and dance with me. Alice, I obey your command. Fu Sang was helpless, but she had to admit that she and her sister were honored to dance for Bai Luo. Sister, please retreat first. Don't be careless. Calling Yuga back to their side, the 2 Fu Sang girls looked at young Xiao, who was descending like a fairy surrounded by countless immortal swords, and couldn't help but show admiration on their faces. For someone from the lower plane to be able to cultivate to her level, it's truly remarkable. Chapter 416 Blessings from the Miracle Land. Your Highness, be careful. Bai Luo sensed the incoming flying sword from behind him, but he didn't move, for Fu Sang had already struck out with a palm strike. A deafening explosion echoed from behind him. Bai Luo glanced back, shocked to see a corner of the palace shattered by Fu Sang's force. Huh? Bai Luo froze. He crushed the stone steps beneath his feet, then picked up a piece and easily pulverized it. What's going on? So brittle. Our things here so brittle? Bai Luo sensed the delicate quartz's combat power. At best, it was a hero level. But could a hero-level mortal so easily crush stone with only physical strength, without the use of miraculous powers? Surely they could, but not to this degree. It felt like I wasn't crushing stone, but mud and sand, as if it were already shattered. With this thought, Bai Luo immediately looked toward the two women fighting in front of him. Bai Luo watched them, but his focus wasn't on the two women, but on the destruction they had wrought. Swish, Yuxiao's sword energy crisscrossed, striking the stone statues and floor tiles, leaving traces. These marks weren't deep, just slightly damaged. Regardless, the damage was on a completely different level from what Bai Luo could inflict. If Bai Luo tapped into the miraculous power within this delicate corpse, he could inflict at least 10, perhaps even 100, times the damage Yang Xiao could inflict. However, the Xingxiao sword in Yang Xiao's hand was a stark contrast. Fu Sang's strikes against Yang Xiao were repeatedly deflected by the Xingxiao sword, allowing the beautiful nun to escape and avoid defeat. Isn't the damage of this sword a bit too high? The sword energy released directly by Yang Xiao differed significantly from the energy released through the Xingxiao sword. A weapon that can, out of thin air, increase dimensional power 100-fold, Yang Xiao's Xingxiao sword was a master-level artifact. It was theoretically capable of damaging Fu Sang and the Yuga sisters. Therefore, the two of them avoided its attack, a decision Bai Luo considered reasonable. It wasn't that they couldn't defeat them, but Bai Luo had previously stated that if anyone present could injure the sisters in the slightest, they would win. Fu Sang and Yuga couldn't afford to embarrass Bai Luo, so they had to fight without taking any damage. But that wasn't the problem. The question was how a mere master-level artifact could elevate Yang Xiao's dimensional power out of thin air. Brother Bai Luo, are you looking at that sword? There's something about this sword I don't understand. Bai Luo nodded. He said to Maya, a master-level artifact in the hands of a mortal, even one at the peak of the transcendent, can harm a master-level child of miracle. I understand that. The biggest difference between a child of miracle and a child of dimension lies in the quality of their miraculous abilities. To put it simply, even if Fu Sang and Yuga were depleted of energy, their bodies would still be at the master level, possessing a wealth of passive laws. These passive laws didn't require energy consumption and determined the sisters' lower limit. Conversely, a child of dimension, even a king level or even a legendary level dimension master, could be killed by an ordinary person if their energy ran out. The comparison between the two was like comparing a ghost cultivator with only a soul and a cultivator with both a soul and a body. The child of miracle clearly held a significant advantage. As for the Lord of Miracles, the Lord of Miracles' characteristic was based on the former, with the addition of infinity. This was the fundamental reason for the Lord of Miracles' invincibility. Nothing finite could possibly challenge the infinite. Even the Lords of Miracles, without reaching the supernormal level of their sixth sense, couldn't deliver a truly infinite attack. I see. After Bai Luo's explanation, Myri watched the battle and saw that it was indeed the case. But it seems there's more to it than that. Yes, that's what I don't understand, Bai Luo. If it were just the sharpness of the Xingxiao sword, then it could be considered the extraordinary power of the miracle artifact. But why can this sword amplify dimensional power so much? Simply inflicting damage, Yuxiao could probably shatter stone with a single blow, but with the Xingxiao sword's amplification, she could actually split the floating palace in the distance, shattering it into pieces with a single strike. This was bizarre. How could such a thing be possible? And the attack Fu Sang used to protect me just now was also different from Yuga's. Yuxiao's Zhanqi is also a form of energy, but this energy is merely a gas. While they appear similar, they are fundamentally different. Yuga's energy, on the other hand, is not only surging but also carries a vast array of principles, such as guaranteed hits, guaranteed kills, destruction, shattering, anti-magic, physical defense, immunity negation, and so on. She's concentrating. Maya noticed that when Yuga fought Yang Xiao, 9 out of 10 of her strength went into concealing something, leaving only 1 for the battle against young Xiao. Why is that? Bai Luo thought of Fu Sang's previous actions, and a glimmer of understanding dawned on him. Could it be, the strength of the miracle land is different from that of the lower plains? Bai Luo approached Yingmu Ian and the others, then shared his speculation. Is everything in that world protected by various laws? You noticed that so quickly? You're truly worthy of being Lord Atón, the corpse bride, as always, flattered Bai Luo. Feng Du, with a clear stance, praised him. You're far more capable than me. I was the Lord of Miracles for decades before I discovered this. That's nothing to be surprised about. Although Mu Yunji was furious at the sight of young Xiao, she maintained a clear stance and remained gentle with Bai Luo. Without this protection, and the Miracle Land's people fighting, a fight between 2 masters, let alone legends, could destroy the entire Miracle Land. The Miracle Land was blessed by the kings, and even a single grain of rice was protected by numerous laws. Its strength was such that even young Xiao, let alone an ordinary mortal, would be unable to bite it. However, when young Xiao arrived in the Land of Miracles, she too was blessed. With this combination, young Xiao could chew rice grains as usual. Therefore, the attributes of mortals on the Land of Miracles and those in the lower planes were identical. However, because the former were in the Land of Miracles and had the blessing of the kings, they were able to live like mortals in the lower planes. Yi Feng and the others, arriving in the Land of Miracles, were able to live without distinction, also because they were blessed. Of course, anything from the Land of Miracles that was not a derivative of miracles would lose its blessing upon reaching the lower planes. Chapter 417, Domain, Moonlight Moon. Fu Sang and Yuga dare not act rashly, the corpse bride said, because this isn't the Land of Miracles. If the damage they inflicted there is compared to 1, here it would be at least 1,000 times greater. That's right, 1,000 times, perhaps even more. The suppression effect of the miracle blessing increases with rank. Extraordinary level soldiers only have a 10x suppression effect, while transcendent level soldiers have 100x, hero level soldiers have 500x, and master level soldiers have 1000x, and so on. In the Land of Miracles, a single strike from a master level soldier can devastate a city, comparable to a small nuclear bomb. But this is when suppressed by the blessing of the kings. In a world without the protection of miracles, a master level soldier would be an absolute devastating force. The arrival of any master's true form would cause irreparable damage to the plane. This is why the upper limit for a Dimension Lord is legendary, while the lower limit is master. Master level combat power is enough to cause dimensional overwhelm even the lower planes. Whoosh, whoosh, more and more swords flew, and Yugi waved her long sleeves, intercepting them all. Ugui was actually feeling frustrated. Her damage overflow was excessive, making her unsuitable for combat in the lower planes. Master level Ugui was no different from the evil gods of the endless planes. And yet, such a formidable evil god was being annoyed by a little girl. If her companions from the East Sea Kingdom knew about this, Ugui would be mortified. Get out of my way, Ugui flung her sleeves and sent Yun Xiao flying. Sister, help me stop her. I'm going to activate my domain. A domain is like the mind-directed world invading the real world, similar to an alternate dimension. Once within the domain, Ugui no longer needed to worry about anything that might disrupt the lower planes. She could truly unleash her own power. Even then, Yun Xiao, barely even at the hero level, would be instantly defeated by her. Domain? What do you mean? Yun Xiao had never heard of a domain, but her battle instincts told her not to let Ugui unleash this power called domain. Don't even think about it. Seeing young Xiao approaching again, Fu Sang immediately stopped her. Stop right there. You've already caused us enough trouble. A mere mortal from the lower realm had actually fought them for so long, completely disgracing the people of Miracle. Moreover, Bai Luo and Maya were still watching, and the other kings were likely watching as well. This wasn't just a domestic embarrassment, it was an international one. Get rid of her quickly, the corpse bride said, but inwardly, she was gritting her teeth at young Xiao. She had an inexplicable feeling that she'd been cheated on, and her husband had a child with someone else. Right now. Right now. Make her disappear, but this will harm this world. Yuga was a little stunned. Expanding her domain without disturbing the world's immune system would take at least a quarter of an hour. But the corpse bride was so anxious, Yuga was really helpless. What's the point of this world? I've already surrendered this miracle battle. The corpse bride didn't care. Control yourself and minimize the impact. As long as you don't destroy the plane's core, I'll help Lord Atón recover. She had already promised Bai Luo to hand over the plane to him, so forcibly destroying it was a formidable undertaking. However, simply repairing the damage was something the corpse bride could handle on her own. Why aren't you doing anything yet? The corpse bride, furious with Feng Du and Yang Xiao, lost all reason and simply wanted to end this farce quickly. Ugui was overthinking things, fearing that a rash move at this moment would ruin Bai Luo's mood. End this battle within 1 minute, the corpse bride shouted angrily. If you can't, return and see how I punish you, your majesty. Ugui paled at the word punishment. She knew the corpse bride's temper well, and even more so what punishment meant. For a miracle master with 1,000 years of experience, a master-level figure cultivated in a few decades was nothing to behold. They had plenty of subordinates. Forget masters, even kings are disposable tools. It's no exaggeration to say that unless you've reached a legendary realm or possess immense potential to break through, the Lord of Miracles won't pay much attention to you. The corpse bride is the king of the East Sea. Under her control is the largest pleasure boat in the entire miracle world, the Dragon Boat, a den of debauchery where those in power can indulge themselves. If Ugui and Fusang make a mistake, they'll instantly lose their current status and freedom. In even more dire circumstances, they'll become playthings on the Dragon Boat, little better than prostitutes from the lower planes. The only difference is that the clients who come to prostitute themselves are of higher status. Even the heroic golden-haired hound is only used to pull Bai Luo and Maya's carriages. The corpse bride has no shortage of miracles with this level of combat power. As for why the two sisters were chosen to serve Bai Luo, the reason is simple: they're weak. They came here not because they were powerful, but because they were weak. Their beauty and the highest level of combat power this plane can withstand, that's the sole reason they were chosen. So the corpse bride wasn't just trying to scare Ugui, she might actually throw her into the dragon boat as a companion. I'll do it right now. Ugui lost her cool demeanor. Her voice trembled with fear for the corpse bride. Please, don't throw me there, kill her quickly. At the corpse bride's command, Ugui raised her jade hand, and instantly, the very air within the underground palace froze. Wind, dust, rocks, sand, people, swords, everything froze in that moment. Domain, Moonstep, Guanghan, a jade white palace, surrounded by pitch black, shimmered only by the stars. Beneath their feet, the pockmarked lunar landscape. This was Ugui's domain, her own miniature alternate dimension, the Guanghan Palace on the Moonstep. Ugh! Suddenly, Old Black Dog, the Meow Sisters, Li Zhen, and the others clutched their necks. They exhaled snow-white mist, and their eyes became bloodshot and quickly covered with a layer of frost. They pressed their throats tightly, trying to breathe, but they couldn't. At the same time, the weightlessness caused by the change in gravity made the three people's bodies float upwards. They kept twisting and struggling, as if they were undergoing the most painful torture. The domain is the power to change the laws. It will replace the environment, just like now, it has moved everyone who was originally on the Earth to the surface of the Moon. The pressure changes in space, the temperature drops sharply, and there is no air here, so even breathing has become a luxury. Old Black Dog and others are not dimensional creatures. Even as strong as Li Zhen, with extraordinary strength, he does not have the passiveness of extraordinary laws. Once the environment changes, they can't react at all. Chapter 418 God? Without a miraculous body, one cannot survive in an environment to which they are not adapted. Even Yang Xiao is no exception. Damn it, the beautiful fairy's face was filled with agony. She grasped the Xingxiao sword, but it only amplified her spiritual power, not brought her protection. Without Mu Yanji's permission, the Xingxiao sword had no right to choose its own master. Yang Xiao felt agonized, as if her flesh and blood were flowing backwards. Her bones creaked, her cells ruptured, and even her brain felt as if it were about to explode. Sister, Fusang stared at her in shock at the sudden change. She couldn't understand why her sister would forcefully summon a domain. This would harm the plane. She had already mobilized power beyond the capacity of this world. Wasn't she afraid? Boom! Fusang was about to say something when the corpse bride's command popped into her mind. Stop meddling, that's enough. Before Fusang and Yuga could continue, Bai Luo stopped them. Off to the side, Maya raised her right hand, and a pale blue energy enveloped the 8 people present. As for the others, they were already dead. their souls naturally being accepted by Fengdu and destined for reincarnation in the underworld. Bai Luo knew the corpse bride had given the order, but he didn't blame her. After all, he had been the one who suddenly intervened. They were all kings, and mutual respect was crucial. The premise for using force to overwhelm others is that the lords of miracles are cowards. Otherwise, try threatening King Aole and see if he'll fight you to the death. The corpse bride, while not a hero like Dong Aole, still had her dignity. Bai Luo had already been made a fool of herself for so long. How could she face the kings if she continued this way? So, seeing Ugui cast her domain, even at the cost of damaging some of this plane's wool, Bai Luo found it perfectly natural. As a bargain, I'll take a few of these people away. Shouldn't the king of the East Sea mind? If Lord Atón likes, you can take them. The corpse bride appeared within Ugui's domain. This was her exclusive space, safe from the lords of miracles. As long as they didn't unleash their power here, but simply allowed the kings to exist, Yugen could use her domain to provide a foothold for everyone. Ahem, Yuxiao's body fell from the air, and she felt gravity again, but the pain in her body was no longer as severe as before. Who are you? I want this woman. Mu Yunji followed closely behind. Ignoring Yuxiao's question, she casually attacked the Xingxiao sword. What? Yuxiao tried hard to keep the Xingxiao sword, but the hand holding the hilt suddenly felt a sharp pain. She stared in disbelief as the Xingxiao sword flew towards Mu Yunji. It had attacked her. This divine weapon, which only she could wield, had actually attacked her. The Xingxiao sword fell into Mu Yunji's hands, and immediately emitted a pleasant and joyful sword sound. For a miracle derivative, its true master is always and forever only one, the master of miracles. Apart from him, everyone else is merely a temporary borrower. Just like Knowles taking the Scarlet Flame Dragon Crown Spear, it belonged to Bai Luo, and Knowles could use it because he, too, had become Bai Luo's own. Only then would the miracle derivative truly obey. Yuxiao, like her, was like a thief, stealing the power that should have come from Mu Yunji. If Mu Yunji didn't know, the Divine Sky Sword, without encountering its ultimate master, would naturally obey the orders of its lesser masters. Fairy Yunhu had told it to protect Yuxiao, and only with that command would a Divine Sky Sword serve. But now it was different. Mu Yunji had arrived, its true master present, and no one else had the right to issue a second order. You took my things, stole my power, and you're asking me why? Mu Yunji didn't take his anger out on Yuxiao. After all, this girl was the reincarnation of his sister. The children of the miracle derivatives were special. They weren't simply bloodlines, they also had souls. Just like the 18 people of Bai Luo's family, if they had children, from flesh and blood to soul, they were both nurtured, not just the reincarnation of someone else. Reincarnation doesn't allow one to choose a miracle citizen unless the other party's master agrees. You've cultivated the Dao for so long, don't you even know whose Dao you're cultivating? Mu Yunji walked over to Yuxiao and casually thrust the Xingxiao sword in front of her. The female sword emperor felt a mixture of love and hatred for Yuxiao. She was a new life conceived by her sister's soul, yet she carried that man's aura. HMPH, Mu Yunji, unsure how to treat this girl, turned away, unwilling to look at her. You are heaven. In the minds of cultivators in this world, Mu Yunji's projection and incarnation must be heaven, God, heaven. Yuxiao's level of cultivation had nearly reached the limits of the lower planes, and therefore she could sense Mu Yunji's aura, a power far more unfathomable and noble than any other dimensional being she had ever encountered. Some places call me that, Mu Yunji didn't deny. There's also Haoshan God, Jade Emperor, and Lord of Heaven. If you find it troublesome, you can just call me Xiandao. Yuxiao was startled by Mu Yunji's background. She couldn't understand why such a noble being would appear in such a place. Are you here to save us, Senior Yun? Old Black Dog said, coughing violently. Can't you see? They're all in this together. Don't be fooled by her. How could she be our god? How could Xiandao be a woman? If she were truly Xiandao, why would she allow the zombies to wreak havoc? Isn't heaven supposed to be just? Why doesn't it punish the zombies, but instead associates with them? Yes, you're right. Yuxiao's eyes struggled. She tried to reach for the Xingxiao sword, but it didn't give her a chance. It not only repelled her hand but also left a charred mark on it. The pain made Yuxiao gasp. She's real, she must be real. The Xingxiao sword is a divine artifact bestowed by heaven, And the current situation clearly demonstrates one thing: Mu Yunji holds greater control over it than she does. So, besides heaven, who else has the power to take the sword from her? But why? If the woman before them truly represents the heavenly Deo they cultivate, the supremely noble god, then why would she associate with zombies, even implicitly siding with them? Are you angry? Bai Luo descended as a true god, followed by Maya. Soon, Feng Du, Ying Muiyang, and the corpse bride descended simultaneously upon Yuga's Guanghan palace. Upon seeing them, the Fusang Yuga sisters immediately knelt, their heads bowed, not daring to look directly at the great masters. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 419, 2 missions at a time. Come back with me. Mu Yunji stared at Young Seo, the overwhelming pressure making the latter speechless. However, this pressure only lasted for a moment, and a figure stood between Mu Yunji and Young Seo. It was Feng Du. What are you doing, brat? What did I do? Feng Du, it's obviously you who's breaking the rules. There are at least 6 Lords of Miracles here, and you're taking them away without giving any reason. Isn't that too much, you fucking? Mu Yunji suppressed her anger and cursed. She also knew why Feng Du, who was notoriously timid, dared to stand up. Can you really do this for her? For whom? I'm just being reasonable with you. Feng Du was unwilling to admit it because the corpse bride was too jealous. Stop talking and stop provoking her. Ying Muiyang shook her head helplessly. She explained to Mu Yunji, back then, this kid and your girl fought together in the abyss, and she saved his life. The people of Jiazhou believe in repaying even a drop of kindness with a spring, let alone a life-saving favor. HMPH, Mu Yunji was also from Jiazhou. Her gentle attitude towards Bai Luo was also out of gratitude for her uncle's kindness. It was the same for everyone, so it was understandable. How about I say a few words? Bai Luo understood the connection. First, Feng Du had known Yunho before he became the Master of Miracles. They were comrades, and Yunho had even saved his life. There were those among the people of Jiazhou who were ungrateful, even repaying kindness with ingratitude. But there were also those like Feng Du and Mu Yunji who would recklessly repay kindness with their lives. Although Feng Du had plotted against him, Bai Luo was fair to both the matter and the person. Feng Du would have to offer Bai Luo some benefits in order to appease his resentment. But Feng Du, whether it was the fact that his mission appeared in the Black Book, proving his loyalty to Bai Luo, or the fact that even after becoming the Master of Miracles, he remained true to his roots and dared to challenge the more powerful Mu Yunji for his friend, Feng Du was someone Bai Luo liked and admired. He's a good person, worth making friends with. After considering both, Bai Luo first laid out his discomfort. You've schemed against us. You must give us an explanation for this matter. Of course, Feng Du said sincerely, I'll definitely give Lord Atón a satisfactory answer when the time comes. Well, then that's all clear. If you can offer a price that satisfies me, Bai Luo is a pauper now, and with a feast to enjoy, he'd be more than happy to be bothered a few more times. If you want to be arrogant and dismissive, well, become rich first. But even if he truly had money, if someone could make Bai Luo say, he's giving me too much, then it's really nice, wouldn't that be embarrassing? It's profitable, and he's a decent person, worthy of my help. After pondering, Bai Luo prepared to intervene. So, let me ask, do you still have any thoughts on this plane? No. Feng Du's good and evil apply equally to all. Mortals in the lower realms, ghosts after death. A few reincarnations is all he cares about. Me neither. The corpse bride was simply trying to spite Feng Du. She had plenty of planes. Besides, for the Lord of Miracles, only dimensions that could produce resources were valuable. Planes were something they didn't really care about. Then let's skip the plane issue and focus on her. Bai Luo looked at Mu Yunji. They weren't exactly close. But because of his uncle's favor and the verbal engagement they'd made, Mu Yunji valued Bai Luo especially. Most women from Jiazhou have this kind of personality. Their values are already fixed. Even Ying Muiyang respects her younger brother and always cares about Bai Luo's face. Give her to me. Mu Yunji was a little worried about Bai Luo's decision. As his fiancée and future wife, Mu Yunji was subconsciously a little afraid of Bai Luo. Of course, this fear was not fear, but respect for her husband. Whether it was his words or his actions, Mu Yunji felt that she should put him first. For example, now, if Bai Luo said she was wrong, Mu Yunji would not dare to refute him. The female Sword Emperor advocated for non-marriage in the heavenly court and strictly prohibited fairies from pursuing mortal desires, which was largely due to her own ideas. "Why don't you give her to me?" Bai Luo's words stunned everyone. Mu Yunji and Feng Du did not expect him to say so. "You don't want her to stay in the lower realm?" Bai Luo pointed at Feng Du again. "And you, brother Feng Du, don't want her to fall into the hands of the Sword Emperor? If that continues, then letting her follow me will solve the problem, won't it? For someone who has reached the pinnacle of transcendence in the lower planes, just one step away from becoming a hero, her potential is beyond words." Yuxiao's lack of strength isn't due to inadequate aptitude, but rather the constraints of the world's rules. This plane is only 10 meters high. Can you grow to 11 meters and poke through the sky? Even if you do grow taller than the sky, you'll have to bend over, making it less comfortable than those at 9 or 8 meters. At least they can unleash their full strength, while you, hunched over, struggle to even move. "No problem," Feng Du quickly raised his hand. As long as the fairy Yunhua's child wasn't being harmed by Mu Yunji, he had no objection. But having Yuxiao, a fairy-like figure, follow him to the underworld seemed unacceptable to Feng Du. Mu Yunji thought for a moment, realizing that Bai Luo was her fiancé and that having her sister's daughter with him made no difference. If they married, and heaven and eight merged into one, wouldn't Yuxiao then be effectively in her hands? Mu Yunji was a woman with a strong desire for control, and once controlled by someone, the stronger her control, the greater the intensity of the control. Just as Mu Yunji told his female fairies, "You must obey me," of course, so too would Bai Luo, who would inevitably feel, "I must obey him." Of course, okay, Mu Yunji agreed, but Yunhua, she must return to me. Swish, at that moment, 2 pages from the Book of Yejin shimmered in Bai Luo's mind. They were Feng Du's mission of fairness and justice, and Mu Yunji's mission of reconciling with Yunhua and acknowledging her. Both missions changed simultaneously, signaling to Bai Luo that the current events might affect the mission's future. If Bai Luo promised Yunhua to Mu Yunji, then due to her face and favors, the Feng Du mission would likely fail. Conversely, Mu Yunji's mission might be in trouble. Bai Luo had to choose between the two. He didn't expect that just a small matter would activate 2 miracle surrender missions. What should I do? How should I choose? Chapter 420 Useless Man. One is the top, the other the middle. The choice is obvious. Moreover, Mu Yunji is a girl. In terms of both preference and relationship, Bai Luo feels that the Sword Emperor is more suitable at this moment. However, Bai Luo is no longer the newbie he once was. Black Book's missions are sometimes not as simple as they appear. They contain traps, and sometimes even try to trick Bai Luo. If Bai Luo truly calculated the cost-effectiveness, he would likely fall into Black Book's trap. 2 missions in a row, and they are related. Bai Luo had little time to think. The people present were all lords of miracles, and Bai Luo couldn't even use the relatively infinite time of his accelerated thinking. He could only answer immediately. "Brother Feng Du, I have something I would like to ask you. Please speak." "Lord Atón, in your opinion, why can't Fairy Yunhua return to the Sword Emperor's side?" Before making a decision, he had to first understand the issue clearly. Only then could Bai Luo prescribe the right solution. What exactly was Feng Du insisting on, and where did he disagree with the female Sword Emperor? Grasping this point would make everything easier. Are you trying to clarify our fundamental conflict? Feng Du was a clever man. He understood Bai Luo's intentions, and since he hoped to leverage Bai Luo and Ying Mulian's power to resolve the issue, he naturally cooperated. "I cannot accept her harming Yunhua. What would the price be for allowing Yunhua to return to the Heavenly Palace? Would she allow Fairy Yunhua to return with her husband?" "You're kidding." Now, the problem was, Mu Yunji didn't approve of that mortal at all. The Heavenly Palace is solemn and dignified. How can they defile it? Mu Yunji only wanted Yunhua. As for that man, she wished to grind him to ashes to vent her hatred. "See, that's our problem, Feng Du. If we separate them, what difference does it make whether they become immortals or not?" For Yunhua, surviving in the Heavenly Palace was like being in an icy prison. Even more terrifying was the inhumane act of brainwashing by a woman named Mu. "I do this for her own good." It was a classic example of for her own good. Bai Luo felt that if Mu Yunji became a mother, she would definitely be a very rigid type. Okay, I roughly understand. Brother Fengdu thinks that Fairy Yunhu has done nothing wrong, but has to reincarnate again and again. This touches on your insistence on a fair afterlife, Bai Luo, and His Excellency the Sword Emperor believes that you should judge your miracle people. Fengdu is an outsider. What qualifications does it have to interfere in this matter? I understand what you two are thinking, but can you listen to me? Bai Luo said to Fengdu. Fairy Yunhu is His Excellency the Sword Emperor's sister. In the words of the people of Jiazhou, the Sword Emperor is the head of the family, and Fairy Yunhu is the daughter of this family. I've seen similar TV dramas before. Bai Luo knew that everyone could understand the meaning of TV dramas, so he continued, the daughter chose a man that her parents did not approve of, eloped with him, and severed the mother-daughter relationship from then on, and never had any contact with each other until they died. By the way, how long has it been? Bai Luo looked at Fengdu. The latter thought for a while and said, almost hundreds of years. This is the speed of time in the miracle world. And the speed of time in different planes is not necessarily the same. Regarding time, the miracle world actually has a unified standard. The problem, however, is that human perception, as well as the efficiency of cosmic motion, can change, just as certain miracle realms maintain their own time standards. The principle is that accelerating physical change simultaneously increases a person's thinking speed. For example, if the flow of water accelerates, a person's perception also increases accordingly. To that person, the water might appear to be unchanged, flowing just as fast as before. So, from this perspective, the number of reincarnations Fairy Yunhu has endured is likely 10 times, or even more, hundreds of years. Then let's calculate it as 1,000 years, Bai Luo, letting a girl run away from home for 1,000 years. I know what you mean, Brother Fengdu, Bai Luo said, stopping Fengdu's thoughts. But have you ever considered that this matter must be resolved? Are they really to be separated, or does Fengdu believe that Fairy Yunhu and her husband are doing well, and that she subconsciously harbors no guilt towards Mu Yanji? The two sisters were once incredibly close, but a conflict erupted over an outsider. The younger sister hopes that the older sister can understand her, while the older sister asks her younger sister to give up the man and leave with her. To put it bluntly, whether it is Mu Yanji or Yunhu, they care about each other. Your Excellency Lord Atón, what you said does make sense. Fengdu is not a troublemaker. He has thought carefully about the meaning of Bai Luo's words. If Yunhu keeps escaping, it will only be a temporary solution. Then you think she should return to the heavenly palace, right? No, Bai Luo is not trying to favor Mu Yanji. He talks about the matter at hand and stands on the side that is right. I think the premise for solving the problem is that both parties are willing to change. Brother Fengdu dares to take such a big risk and come to us to solve this matter. Bai Luo guessed. I think there should be a second person involved. Am I right, Brother Fengdu? Your Excellency, you are right. Fengdu smiled and said, it was Fairy Yunhu who asked me to arrange this. Come to think of it, if Fengdu didn't have Yunhu as a medium, how could he inexplicably choose to jump out at this time? It's too unreasonable. Yunhu, Mu Yanji hadn't expected this. She demanded, where is she? Why can't she come see me? Bai Luo's rude comments were truly disrespectful. Given the Sword Empress's powerful personality, if Yunhu were to emerge, she could easily take her away. How could Fengdu dare to do that? Problem solved. You can see her anytime you want. You? Mu Yanji glared at Fengdu. She was a fighter, and conspiracies and intrigues were exactly what she wasn't good at. Unfortunately, Ying Mulian was standing right beside her. In terms of strength, Mu Yanji wouldn't dare act arrogantly in front of the Eastern Empress, or she'd get beaten. Sir Sword Emperor, please calm down, Bai Luo began. Mu Yanji stopped targeting Fengdu and asked, the root of the problem has been revealed. That man isn't good enough. Am I right, Sir Sword Emperor? Yes, Mu Yanji didn't bother lying. I don't understand why she chose such a useless man. Imagine if Yunhu's man was a strong man like Bai Luo, then even if he sent troops to capture him, it would be Mu Yanji who would be beaten. But now? Mu Yanji wanted to punish Yunhu, but the man didn't dare to even fart. His sister chose such a useless man, which not only made Mu Yanji feel ashamed, but also felt that she was not worth it. This was what Mu Yanji truly hated about him. If he was so incompetent, why did he want to harm her sister? Chapter 421, Mud on the Wall. I want to ask you a question. If I break off our engagement, what will you do? Break off the engagement? This wasn't the kind of negotiation they'd had before, but a forced refusal. A very humiliating one. Mu Yunji was startled. She subconsciously thought Bai Luo was using this to threaten her. If that were the case, Mu Yunji would probably listen to Bai Luo and acknowledge Yunhua and the others' identities. But this was coercion, using the husband's authority to demand his wife's obedience. Perhaps Mu Yunji would agree this time, but for the miracle mission, it would likely cause an irreparable rift, making it impossible to complete it. That's not what I meant. It's just a question, Bai Luo quickly explained. I just wanted you to imagine what you would do if this really happened. You have no say. After the panic, Mu Yunji regained her composure. She said, the engagement is between you and me. If you disagree, that's your freedom, but I recognize this engagement. Look, Bai Luo smiled. Look at yourself, then look at your sister. Do you think if you were Yunhua, would you be willing to give up your choice? It wasn't that Mu Yunji couldn't think clearly, but she had been too arrogant before. After all, it was only in the last few decades that she met her uncle and was taught by him. It had to be said that Mu Yunji had indeed changed a lot. At least she listened to Bai Luo's words instead of just arguing and resisting. Bai Luo counseled them from two different perspectives. Starting from Feng Du, Bai Luo told them that Yunhua couldn't run away forever. This was only treating the symptoms, not the root cause. Could it be considered a good thing if the two sisters never saw each other again? Feng Du backed off, hoping Yunhua and Mu Yunji would reconcile and truly reunite. Meanwhile, Bai Luo urged Mu Yunji to reflect carefully. How could she allow others to judge her choice? If Yunhua didn't love that man, she should have recognized reality and severed ties with him when Mu Yunji sent his celestial soldiers to capture him. Instead, Yunhua remained obsessed with him. She even decided that if he couldn't become a god, she would become human. She preferred to follow him to the lower planes and endure hardship rather than remain high and alone. Alice, Mu Yunji sighed, seemingly sensing her sister's attitude, her dejected expression growing. So, what do you think we should do? Mu Yunji wouldn't approve, but she now understood her sister's perspective. Regardless of her approval, she approved of him. The two sisters shared a common approach to men and marriage, lifelong commitment. Even if Bai Luo were left with nothing, Mu Yunji wouldn't leave. You two sisters are the same. What you truly dislike isn't the man, but his position, Bai Luo said. He lacks talent and isn't worthy of Fairy Yunhua, but I think that's a bit too much. Bai Luo spotted a contradiction. If he could only make Fairy Yunhua's husband stronger, wouldn't the problem be solved? How about I train him? Bai Luo offered his thoughts. He had many miracles, nearly 20. With so many, couldn't he find a suitable one? The other party couldn't adapt to the power of miracles. The power of miracles here had a prerequisite, Mu Yunji's own. The world of miracles was boundless, and the population of the lower planes was even more innumerable. Bai Luo couldn't claim that among the miracles he currently possessed, there would be one suitable for him. But as long as Bai Luo kept searching, even if he couldn't achieve it now, it didn't mean he couldn't in the future. With a book of Yajin in hand, was Bai Luo afraid he couldn't solve a small mortal problem? As for Yunhua, Bai Luo thought for a moment and said, let's leave it to the Sword Emperor. What? Feng Du felt that this was a bit of a trap, but Bai Luo said, brother, calm down and think about it carefully. If Fairy Yunhua marries a husband who indulges in drinking, gambling, whoring, and even prostitutes, Bai Luo said, what would you do? Kill him? Feng Du was straightforward and simple, and he directly said what he was thinking. Is such a person worthy of being Yunhua's husband? It seems that we have the same idea, Bai Luo said. It is indeed important that Fairy Yunhua likes him, but is liking him right and reasonable? Just like the previous example, if a daughter falls in love with a scumbag, is that love? That's called being deceived. But he is not that kind of person. Feng Du argued that he had been observing the other party, and he was not the scumbag that Bai Luo said. As a man, if you don't have a chance, it's just bad luck, Bai Luo said. But look here, over there, you guys, and me. We have so many miracle masters here, 6, with 6 miracle masters helping him. If he still can't make it, Bai Luo felt that such a man should just die. You're already a child of luck, with all sorts of cheats, and if you still fail, it's definitely your own fault. If he can't do it, Bai Luo said, then he's a hopeless case. If a man like that has no problems, like the Sword Emperor, then you have to accept your fate, Bai Luo said. Your sister just likes losers. There's no reason to argue. It's like a rich girl falling for a poor boy. The billionaire asks her why, And she replies, I just want to live a life of poverty with him. I like squares, what else could Bai Luo say? Humans accept everything. You can't judge others by your own values and worldview. Mu Yunji thought about it carefully, and it seemed to be true. If someone is given an opportunity, cherishes it, and strives hard, yet ultimately fails, lacking talent, an incompetent man, truly incompetent, yet Fairy Yunhua still loves him. This proves that Fairy Yunhua only likes mediocre men. Then, Mu Yunji will have to admit it. After all, she's her sister, even if she's a lesbian. Okay, Mu Yunji nodded. If it's as you say, I accept it. I'll personally bless them when the time comes. Then why can't they be together? What kind of relationship are you talking about? Bai Luo transformed into the dean of students. You're not studying hard, but you're dating me? Don't you know that dating in high school means you're helping someone else support their wife? Feng Du's eyes widened, feeling a little confused. Ahem, Bai Luo said, well, what I mean is, if they're already together, why bother practicing? The purpose of practicing is to be with your wife, but you're already together, so why are you still practicing? I understand, Feng Du said, this is a spur. We have to push him, they are all men, and Feng Du must have resentment in his heart, hating his father for not fighting. A man who can't even protect his own woman is so shameful. If he can't hold his head up, Bai Luo and Feng Du's thoughts were surprisingly similar at this moment. Bah, what a joke. Chapter 422 Teach me. Thus, the problems on both sides were temporarily resolved. Mu Yunji had a way out and chose to respect his sister, but she hoped that he would at least try hard to be worthy of his sister. Feng Du did his best because Mu Yunji would no longer persecute or separate them. However, faith is something that must be earned by oneself. If Feng Du really took it all, even Fairy Yunhua would feel that she was going too far. This is not a friend, this is a spare tire, right? Woo woo woo. Little did she know how aggrieved the corpse bride next to her was. The man she loved was so active for another woman, who is a married man. Her heart ached and was bleeding. But what can I do? The corpse bride had no words to say. The man I love will love him to the end even if I have to kneel down. Corpse bride, you can like other women, but you can't stop me from liking you. What kind of third-rate romance novel is this? Bai Luo muttered inwardly, but his mind was focused on the black book. Sure enough, he'd accomplished both tasks simultaneously, but he still had some way to go before truly taming them. Looks like we need to completely resolve this couple's issues. The black book could offer Bai Luo a shortcut, but he had to take it himself. Okay, then, let's go back. Bai Luo would take Yun Xiao away, and he would discuss her arrangements with Mu Yunji. I miscalculated. In the Miracle Land, within the Principality of Atón, the old uncle rolled up his sleeves. Unbeknownst to him, the torrent of power that had once raged in his heart now permeated nearly his entire body. Is there no other way? The old uncle had originally thought that by gaining the power of the Qingquan and becoming a miraculous creature with her, he could use the power of the miracle to suppress the encroaching torrent. But now, it seemed the miracle couldn't hold it back. Why? The old uncle wasn't frightened by his body's renewed collapse. He remained calm. This was especially true when Bai Luo was away and he was alone. What exactly is a torrent? A mighty force? But what is mighty force? Uncle had heard of mighty force long ago, back when he was adventuring far and wide, but he first heard of it from the notes left by his father. Uncle's father, Bai Luo's grandfather, was a descendant of the war god Atón, a mortal who lived for 800 years. The original Atón kingdom had 7 kings, all miraculous beings and miraculous beings from Yingbei's Hao. However, without their master of miracles, their power waned and they eventually perished. Old Atón was the master of the Atón kingdom, but he wasn't the ruler of the 7 kings of Atón. They protected him simply because he was a descendant of Yingbei's Hao. Similarly, to protect him, the 7 kings granted him no rights, ruling, administration, or even diplomatic representation. Old Atón became the custodian of the Atón library. Though he held no power, he remained closely associated with Atón's most important legacy for 800 years. During these 800 years, Old Atón read nearly every book left by Yingbei's Hao. In sheer knowledge of secrets, few could match Old Atón in this era. The Atón kings were formidable. Even without their master, they remained able to suppress and intimidate surrounding nations with their immense power, deterring them from coveting their power. However, they were more of pure warriors. The Atón kings knew far less of Atón's secrets and deeper research than Old Atón did. This was precisely why they appointed Old Atón as librarian, First, to protect him, and second, to inherit the most important treasures of the Atón Empire. The treasures of the Atón Empire were never merely the power of the Atón Kingdom, but rather the knowledge, the fruit of over 10,000 years of research by Yingbei's Hao. Sadly, the Atón National Library was burned down by the Iron Eagle King. Those books crafted from the leaves of the World Tree, with Yingbei's Hao's death and the tree's collapse, became rootless duckweed. They should have been indestructible, undamaged for a mere 10,000 years, or even a million. However, without their masters, when the books crafted from the leaves of the World Tree encountered normal fire, it was as if they had received a signal to self-destruct. Even though the Iron Eagle King reacted immediately and repented, he could only watch helplessly as countless books were reduced to ashes in the blaze. Old Atón escaped and salvaged some of the books. Great power. The uncle first encountered great power in these books. Yingbei's Hao has spent nearly 10,000 years investigating this thing, exploring its origin. According to the ancient Book of Atón, the Atón Empire suspected the source of miracles was connected to something called great power. Later, the uncle received clues about great power from the heroic spirits. The torrent is a type of great power. This sentence gave the uncle a clue he had never had before, a type of great power. The heroic spirits referred to great power as a type, which also meant that there was likely more than one. Ugh! Suddenly, even as the uncle was pondering, a piercing pain erupted. The old man clutched his heart, where a vast torrent emanated a deep, mysterious light. It was alive, even possessed a will of its own. It spoke, telling the uncle something. What are you trying to tell me? The uncle felt the torrent held no ill will towards him, which was strange. Logically, the supreme miracle had cursed him with the torrent, so the torrent couldn't be a good person. Yet, the uncle simply felt that the torrent had nothing to do with the supreme miracle. They weren't part of the same group. The pain began to spread, rising from his heart. Strands of golden blood streamed like streams toward the uncle's left eye. The next moment, the pupil of his left eye began to tremble. He saw something, a wisdom he had never seen before. After an unknown amount of time, the old uncle lowered his head. He was panting violently, and even the clothes on his back were soaked with sweat. However, the old man did not look decadent or afraid, but became more and more calm. So that's how it is. Is this what the child felt when he held a dusk? The impact brought by the torrent was like the power of dusk that Bai Luo suddenly obtained, but unlike Bai Luo, whose temperament had changed drastically, the old uncle actually withstood the power of the torrent and maintained his self perfectly. He was not changed, and there was not even the slightest wavering in his heart. Don't worry, I can bear it. The old uncle calmed down his inner throbbing, then raised his head, his eyes calmly gazing at the empty space ahead. Now, teach me. Tell me everything you know. Chapter 423 I give up. Is this the great power? A glint flickered in the old uncle's eyes, his expression shifting from solemn to sudden realization. The torrent held wisdom beyond even the old uncle's comprehension. It was all-encompassing, unfathomable, and, possessed in a flash, even the old uncle nearly developed a delusion of omnipotence, losing himself. No, it's more than that. Soon, the old uncle regained consciousness, sensing a sense of dissonance, as if the torrent held something more hidden. That wisdom was merely a mist. The torrent truly wanted to tell him something more. There's more to it than that. What do you want to say? Tell me why you came to me. Why me? The torrent lacked consciousness. It was more like a conglomeration of knowledge and power. It was nowhere to be found, yet omnipresent, a mysterious and powerful force, revered by the world as the great power. The supreme miracle had cursed the old uncle, and he had long believed the torrent to be the culprit. However, after truly communicating with the mighty force known as the torrent, the old uncle discovered his mistake. The torrent and that supreme miracle were two completely different things. They were not even in the same league. The torrent had come to him, not to kill him, but to tell uncle something. This negative effect was due to two factors. The torrent's power was too great, and uncle's status was insufficient. When the torrent flowed into uncle's body, it continuously elevated his life. However, this had enormous side effects for a mortal. He couldn't bear it. Even now, as a miracle creature, he was on the verge of collapse. As for why he didn't seek someone else out? Unfortunately, in this era, besides uncle, there was no one else who could hear the torrent's voice. Only this man possessed the potential to reach the pinnacle of wisdom while maintaining his own integrity, undeceived by its terrifying wisdom. Only he possessed the potential to sense the torrent's true hidden meaning within that boundless wisdom, what it wanted to tell him. Where is this place? At some point, Uncle's consciousness arrived in a pure white, empty room. Metallic style, electronic frontier, the miracle world boasted not only Eastern and Western mythology, but also sci-fi and interstellar influences. The Lords of Miracles uniformly refer to and summarize this type of power system as the electronic frontier, one of the 28 factions. I remember that miracle before, it wasn't from the electronic frontier system, so that's why I was brought here, the uncle speculated. Is it the torrent? During his adventures in the land of miracles, the uncle had already encountered similar miracle realms and their derivatives, so he wasn't surprised. His only curiosity was which faction had brought him here. Was it the evil and terrifying supreme miracle, or was it the torrent that had cost him most of his life? Or was my previous judgment wrong, and that supreme miracle was the electronic frontier? The uncle had never truly understood the origins of the supreme miracle he had found. It was mysterious, like a demonic barrier, and had accompanied the Atón bloodline for 800 years. His father, his brother, himself, and even Bai Luo, they were all under the curse of this supreme miracle. The first person to discover the miracle was Yin Bai's Hao, Bai Luo's previous life. It was he who, through the Book of Yajin, painstakingly tracked down the location of this supreme miracle. Unfortunately, Yin Bai's Hao never completed his quest for the supreme miracle. After Yin Bai's Hao's death, old Atón, after 800 years, finally located the miracle in a library and miraculously discovered that it possessed an unprecedented heritability. After a father's death, his son could continue his pursuit. While the achievements of the pursuit could not be passed down, and he had to start over, miracles, by nature, require only a chance. Whether one could achieve it depended on talent, while being qualified was purely a matter of luck. Realizing this, old Atón was overjoyed at the favor of a supreme miracle. However, his smile soon faded. As his pursuit resumed, old Atón completed one impossible task after another, ultimately reaching the final link. If he could complete it, and just this one more, old Atón would gain a power powerful enough to rival the entire world. Throughout the world of miracles, there could only be 7 supreme items, and even in a single era, not all 7 might appear. Sometimes, not even one supreme item might appear. It's no exaggeration to say that if old Atón could truly obtain it, even if he couldn't become the world's #1, he would still have a place at the top. However, old Atón had never imagined the final task would be something like that. It wasn't difficult, but it simply shouldn't exist. To obtain it, you must offer someone you share a blood relationship with and love from the bottom of your heart. At that moment, old Atón, just one step away from the supreme miracle, felt like he was sinking into an icy cave. He had never imagined that the miracle he had placed such high hopes on, the miracle that would restore Atón's glory, would be something like this. The kingdom of Atón had fallen, and after retiring, old Atón met his wife and had 2 children with her. Offer someone you truly love and are related to you by blood. For old Atón, who met this requirement? Only 2, obviously, his 2 children, now his uncle, and Bai Luo's father. Old Atón naturally loved his children, but precisely because of that love, he wouldn't trade their lives for that miracle. He'd rather give it up, rather never have seen it. Does that still count as a miracle bought with children's lives? Old Atón hesitated, but ultimately, he turned and walked away. What's the point of such a miracle? Old Atón would rather die like a mortal than ponder the question again. He made his choice, but it forever sank him into resentment. When a miracle stands before you, when it's too powerful to give up easily, what will you choose? This isn't the foolish old feast Bai Luo had encountered before, whose specifications and level were comparable to Bai Luo's. And with a black book, Bai Luo felt he would find more miracles in the future. There was no need to go against his nature or touch his limits. Bai Luo had a future, limitless possibilities. So he chose to give up, not because he was really that powerful. Bai Luo gave up simply because he still had a choice. But old Atón didn't, he only had that one chance. Chapter 424 The Stolen Treasure. His uncle's parents died young, and he was raised by his older brother. However, even in his youth, his uncle harbored ambitions, aspiring to become a master of miracles and rise to prominence. Around that time, his uncle discovered a notebook left by his father, containing clues to the supreme miracle. He should have sought it out. However, due to conscription order, and to protect his frail brother, his uncle was forced to be drafted by the Qingquan kingdom and, as a mortal, to participate in the miracle war. It's a testament to the strength of Saros's mind. Faced with the prospect of finding the supreme miracle and the safety of his brother, Despite such a daunting choice, this man chose the latter without hesitation. Bai Luo cared more about his family than personal gain, largely due to his uncle's words and actions. Through this subtle influence, Bai Luo learned a great deal from the old man. Later, for the Marcus Kinquin, his uncle volunteered to be a hostage in the Holy Empire, enduring the most brutal battles and surviving as the most incredible hero in the history of the Land of Miracles. He left the Holy Empire and assembled a group of people, masters of miracles, miracle bearers, and ordinary mortals. Yet, under the leadership of his uncle, this group successfully completed all the prerequisites for the supreme miracle. Just one step, just one final step, and his uncle would become the master of the supreme miracle. Supreme. Even throughout history, how many people had ever achieved the supreme miracle? The difference between supreme and supreme is only a single character, yet the power difference between the two is worlds apart. Those who haven't achieved the supreme will never understand the difference. Supreme status varies from person to person. The powerful are powerful, but the weak are also weak. In comparison, the supreme is a bug. Anyone who achieves it gains unparalleled power. His uncle, a mortal his entire life, always looked up to them. Did his uncle really not want to be at the top? How could he possibly be? If the opportunity presented itself, if it was even possible, why wouldn't he seize it? He could be king, so why would he let someone else take the throne? So, the old uncle quietly completed those missions, keeping even his companions unaware of this. Even a formidable figure like the female sword emperor was oblivious to the fact that the old uncle had exploited them. That's not exploitation. You didn't harm them. Kinquin was the only one who knew the truth, the only one from whom the old uncle had kept it secret. You made them successful. This was your plan, your arrangement. It was a win-win. And how can a win-win situation be called exploitation? Everyone on the team got what they wanted, and it was all found by the old uncle. Without the old uncle, could they have achieved their dreams on their own? To put it bluntly, being used by a wise man like the old uncle was a blessing. So, isn't that exploitation? That's being chosen. With the old uncle's wisdom, countless people around the world eagerly awaited his guidance. But I still feel I deceived them. The old uncle had indeed exploited his companions to achieve his goals, but he didn't feel complacent. Instead, he felt guilty. This was also why, years later, Uncle hadn't dared to proactively seek out his old friends. Just like the Sword Emperor, if Uncle was in trouble, he'd just say a word. And even if the opponent was Yingmu Ian or the Northern Queen, she'd still come, without hesitation. It wasn't just the Sword Emperor, everyone felt the same way. It wasn't that they didn't sense Uncle's concerns, they did, but they didn't ask. There was no need to ask. Because in everyone's heart, Uncle was perfect. They trusted him, believing he would never harm them. As for the process, whether it would be painful, that was Saros. His plan was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. Painful, of course, that was a plan beyond their imagination. If that's not deception, then how could it be? There was a reason why the Marcus Kinquin had captivated Uncle. That's a white lie, since the answer is cruel, and you can choose a happy ending. Why make others suffer for the sake of the so-called truth? Besides, you only hid something from them, Kinquin. You didn't tell them you used them, but you also never said you wouldn't, though the Elector had shattered her confidence, for the man she loved, Marcus Kinquin, in that moment, seemed to rediscover her former self, the decisive, ruthless Empress of Earth. Her wisdom couldn't match her uncle's, Kinquin knew that. But as a woman, she possessed a tolerance and gentleness that men lacked. Believe in yourself. When you find that miracle, they will naturally understand your painstaking efforts. When my uncle found his miracle, he wouldn't be a tyrant who turned his back on his friends. He would be the greatest miracle master in the world. He possessed wisdom, and he had the power to support that wisdom. Then, who could rival him? Thank you. My uncle's love for Kinquin was never one-sided. He had his share of confusion and pain, but each time, it was the woman before him who comforted him, supported him, and gave him the courage to continue. However, this time, the uncle was plunged into unprecedented horror and pain. Sacrifice your beloved family, like old Arden. The uncle was also stunned by the miracle's final requirement. For the uncle, his choice was almost the only one. In his childless life, only one person could meet this requirement, Bai Luo's father, his brother. What kind of miracle is this? Is there such a crazy miracle in this world? The uncle only knew that this miracle was passed down from his ancestors, but it was not until this moment that the uncle realized why his father had abandoned it in the first place. Right before his eyes, yet out of reach? No, that was not enough to sway the uncle. The real pain is being so readily available yet unwilling to take it. I don't want to, I don't need such a miracle. The uncle's mind was so strong that, faced with the allure and temptation of the highest level miracle, he resolutely made his choice. Even without the highest level miracle, with my abilities, even the lowest level one can still make a breakthrough. Even if I don't find it, I still have the clear spring. Unfortunately, uncle's inner thoughts, old Aton's abandonment, and Ying Shirisun's failure, these three mistakes, completely enraged the supreme miracle. Using its own true form as a trigger, it unleashed an extremely terrifying curse upon uncle, a curse comparable to the supreme miracle itself, possessing infinite miraculous power. No miracle will be loyal to you. Not only that, no matter how powerful or wise you are, you will never obtain what you desire most, the ultimate treasure you long for in this life. For uncle, what did he want most? At that time, uncle didn't know, didn't realize what had been taken away from him. First, uncle himself hadn't lost anything, nor was he injured or disabled. Upon investigation, among those he knew well, Kinquin was fine, his companions were also safe, and his brother was alive and well. So, what exactly did you take from me? The ultimate treasure I longed for in this life. Uncle pondered for a long time, but could not figure out what the ultimate treasure taken away by the supreme miracle was. Chapter 425 Nahayak. What was taken away? Uncle still can't forget the experience of 20 years ago. It was a nightmare. What was taken away from him? To many, it might not seem significant, but to Saros, it was truly a treasure. The supreme miracle had taken uncle's offspring, meaning he would never have children of his own. Uncle was still a man, capable of having women. Those abilities remained unchanged. But no matter what uncle did, he would be childless. What a joke. Uncle, with his wisdom, quickly guessed what the curse had taken away. He couldn't believe it. How could a miracle be so mean? Even if you took uncle's life, he wouldn't even bat an eyelid. As a hero, uncle was prepared to lose it at any moment. But what about this petty act? Initially, uncle didn't think a mere offspring would hinder his progress, but even he didn't realize how much he loved children. The weakness of the Atón people isn't the sword, nor is it life or death, it's loneliness. Every Atón dreaded being alone, even someone as powerful as the old uncle. The inability to have an heir, to start a family, was too cruel for the old uncle. Back then, the old uncle suffered, struggled, and fought hard, but the end result was always failure. It's been almost 20 years, the old uncle walked through this pure white world, moving forward until he arrived at a circular iron gate with a sci-fi feel. The past was now a memory, and the old uncle had long since found his destiny. You won't get what you want, because what you can get is far better than you imagined. This was the comfort Aaliyah had once used in her youth, and now it had come true, for the old uncle had truly found a treasure beyond his imagination. Squeak, the door opened, and the old uncle looked forward, revealing a vast laboratory. There, a figure awaited his arrival. Hello, wise man from a distant land. Welcome to my world. This man was a man in his 20s, with short white hair and a lab coat. Let me introduce myself. My name is Nahayak, and I'm an Oravan, but according to your understanding, my homeland in the Oravan world should be called the electronic frontier. The other person's existence was extremely unique. While the electronic frontier existed in Miracle World, it was not mainstream. And this man before him could actually conceal himself within the torrent, beneath a wisdom that was almost untouchable. This power was simply incredible. Nahayak, the old man frowned. Who are you, and why did you call me here? The old man was always calm, trusting his own judgment. The other person had expended so much effort, harnessing his immense power to connect with him. It was definitely not that simple. I know you have many questions, but I'm sorry. Nahayak raised his hand, and the entire lab seemed to go hazy, garbled, then blurry. This is just a video I've transmitted. The torrent is a mighty force, one that even I struggle to grasp. Passing this information to you is the limit of my ability, so, please listen to me, and then judge for yourself whether what I say is credible. What do you want to say? Knowing it was just a video, the uncle asked anyway. A forgotten piece of history, Nahayak. About 3 million years ago, this world experienced an unimaginable catastrophe. Because the stage for that catastrophe was called Alerbogen, we call it the Battle of Alerbogen, the Battle of Alerbogen. The uncle thought back to what the heroic spirits had said. Now, blessed with the wisdom of the torrent, many things he hadn't understood before became crystal clear, as if they weren't already known. "What is it?" the old uncle muttered. "The spirits buried in Avalon keep speaking of it, and now, even this man hidden in the torrent, it's history, and it's also a deception," Nahek said. "I once led the Oravan people into war, seeking change and gain, but the result has left me with regrets to this day." Then, Nahek showed the old uncle a world he had never seen before, his homeland, a place he called the electronic frontier. Though the details were brief, even this glimpse left the old uncle shaken. Yet, even such a powerful electronic frontier had failed in the place called Alerbogen. "My family, my companions, and my students," Nahek leaned against the lab table, his eyes filled with regret and loneliness. "They all lost their lives because of my wrong choices, because of her." The old uncle caught the key word in Nahek's words, "who, in our pursuit of truth, we have tried countless possibilities, including sending friendly signals to the unknown," Nahek said. "And one day, a being similar to you contacted me. She is extremely intelligent and possesses extraordinary personal charisma. As a seeker of knowledge, I have communicated with her time and time again, although we have never met. This method of communicating through distance still brings me great joy." Hearing Nahek's words, the old uncle vaguely guessed the identity of the her he was talking about. She called herself Isethia, the Queen of Gudern, the creator goddess of Alerbogen. She came with friendship, and over countless years, she has helped me solve difficult problems. As a seeker of knowledge, I am lonely and have been burdened by knowledge. She's like a friend living in a foreign land, a confidant, Nahek said. At that time, Nahek saw the queen as a kindred spirit, and like many online friends, he began sharing his troubles with her. She shrugged. "But I have to admit," Nahek said, "we Oravans can't read people's hearts, especially those with ulterior motives. They're our nemesis." Their long-term contact and sharing of information deepened Nahek's trust in Isethia. But then, the queen revealed her true colors. "My country faces an unprecedentedly powerful enemy. Now is a critical moment. I beg you, my friend, I ask for your help. I hope the noble and powerful Oravans will lend me assistance and help me drive out the enemy." Nahek was naive. He easily believed the queen's lies and, along with his students and companions, as well as countless creatures, led him to Alerbogen under the queen's guidance to participate in the catastrophic world war. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.